What if the life you dream of is closer than you think, hidden behind doubt, fear, and untapped potential? This audiobook reveals timeless principles like resilience, authenticity, and clarity to guide you toward your best self. Welcome to the Secret Library. Before starting, comment below where you're currently listening from in the world. Also, please hit the like button and subscribe so we can continue making stories like this. Chapter 1. The Seed of Belief. Belief is the invisible force that drives human potential, a quiet but unshakable power that can transform dreams into reality. For centuries, philosophers, scientists, and visionaries have sought to understand this phenomenon, tracing its origins and marveling at its outcomes. Yet, for most people, belief begins as something small and unassuming, a mere whisper of possibility buried beneath the noise of doubt and routine. In its early stages, belief is fragile, easily overshadowed by fear and uncertainty. But like a seed planted in fertile soil, it holds the promise of something extraordinary. The first step in this journey is recognizing the seed's existence and nurturing it with care. For Elias, belief had always been an abstract concept, something he admired in others but struggled to cultivate within himself. His life was ordinary by most standards, marked by the familiar rhythms of work, family, and fleeting aspirations. He had dreams, of course, but they always seemed distant, more like hazy mirages than tangible possibilities. Growing up, he had been told to be realistic more times than he could count. Practicality was valued above all else in his family, and belief in something greater often felt like a luxury he couldn't afford. Everything changed on an otherwise unremarkable morning. Elias was walking through the park near his office, his thoughts weighed down by the monotony of his daily routine. The park was quiet, the air crisp with the scent of freshly fallen leaves. As he strolled, his eyes caught a small group of children gathered around a street performer. The man was juggling an impossible number of colorful balls, his movements fluid and precise. The children watched in wide-eyed wonder, their faces alight with pure joy. For a moment, Elias stopped, transfixed not by the performance itself, but by the reactions it evoked. Something stirred within him, a faint but unmistakable sense of longing. He realized that it had been years since he had felt that kind of wonder, that effortless belief in magic and possibility. Somewhere along the way, he had let practicality overshadow his capacity to dream. He walked away from the park with a nagging question in his mind. What if I could believe in something more? That question lingered, growing louder with each passing day. Elias began to notice how often doubt dictated his choices, how fear of failure kept him rooted in place. He started to pay attention to the small, seemingly inconsequential decisions he made out of habit rather than conviction. Did he really dislike public speaking, or had he simply convinced himself he wasn't good at it? Was he truly content with his job, or had he settled because it felt safer than chasing something new? One evening, as Elias sat at his kitchen table, he decided to write down his thoughts. He listed the dreams he had abandoned, the opportunities he had ignored, and the excuses he had made along the way. The exercise was sobering, but also liberating. For the first time, he could see the patterns that had held him back, the mental barriers he had constructed to protect himself from disappointment. And in the midst of that realization, a small, flickering hope began to take shape. It wasn't much, just a whisper of possibility, but it was enough to make him wonder what might happen if he nurtured it. Elias's first experiment with belief was modest. He had always wanted to learn how to play the piano, but had convinced himself it was too late to start. One Saturday morning, he walked into a local music store and signed up for lessons. The instructor, a cheerful woman named Clara, assured him that age was no barrier to learning. All it takes is practice and a willingness to try, she said with a smile. The first few lessons were humbling. Elias struggled to coordinate his hands, and the notes he played sounded more like noise than music. There were moments of frustration when he questioned why he had even bothered. But each time he felt like giving up, he reminded himself that belief wasn't about instant success. It was about trusting the process, about planting the seed and giving it time to grow. Over the weeks, something remarkable began to happen. As Elias's fingers grew more confident on the keys, he started to feel a sense of accomplishment he hadn't experienced in years. The melodies he played were simple, but they filled him with a quiet joy that spilled over into other areas of his life. He found himself approaching challenges at work with more confidence, taking small risks that led to meaningful progress. The seed of belief was growing, its roots spreading into every aspect of his existence. Encouraged by his progress, Elias decided to take another step outside his comfort zone. He had always avoided public speaking, convinced that he lacked the charisma and poise needed to captivate an audience. But when his manager asked for volunteers to present a project update at the next team meeting, Elias raised his hand. The decision surprised even himself, but he knew it was an opportunity to test the strength of his budding belief. The days leading up to the presentation were nerve-wracking. Elias rehearsed tirelessly, his mind oscillating between excitement and dread. When the day finally arrived, he stood in front of his colleagues with a mix of fear and determination. His voice trembled at first, but as he spoke, he began to find his rhythm. He focused on the message he wanted to convey rather than the judgment he feared. By the time he finished, the room erupted in applause. For the first time, Elias felt the thrill of conquering a fear and proving to himself that he was capable of more than he had imagined. Belief, Elias realized, wasn't a sudden revelation or a dramatic transformation. It was a series of small, deliberate choices, each one a step toward a version of himself he had only glimpsed in fleeting moments. It was the courage to try, to fail, and to try again. It was the willingness to let go of old narratives and embrace the possibility of change. As Elias continued to nurture his belief, he noticed how it began to influence his relationships. He found himself listening more attentively to his friends and colleagues, encouraging them to pursue their own aspirations. He shared his experiences openly, not as a model of success, but as a testament to the power of persistence and self-discovery. In turn, he found that others were inspired by his journey, their own seeds of belief taking root and beginning to grow. One evening, as Elias sat at his piano, playing a melody he had once thought impossible, he reflected on how far he had come. The seed of belief, once so fragile, had grown into something strong and enduring. It wasn't the absence of doubt or fear, but the ability to move forward despite them. And in that realization, Elias understood that belief wasn't just a personal transformation. It was a gift he could share with the world. As the final notes of his song echoed through the room, Elias smiled, knowing that the journey was just beginning. The seed of belief had taken root, and its branches were reaching toward the endless sky of possibility. Chapter 2. Shaping Your Inner World. The world Elias saw around him had always seemed fixed, governed by unchangeable rules and external forces beyond his control. But as he continued nurturing the small seed of belief within him, he began to realize that his perception shaped much of his reality. If the outer world was a reflection of the inner one, then transforming his thoughts could change how he experienced life. This realization was both empowering and daunting, as it called for a level of self-awareness and intentionality that Elias had rarely practiced. The first challenge came unexpectedly during an ordinary meeting at work. Elias's team had been tasked with solving a persistent issue that had been slowing their projects for months. As the group brainstormed, the conversation quickly turned into a cycle of complaints. "The system just doesn't work," one colleague said, throwing up their hands. "We've tried everything, and nothing changes." The atmosphere in the room grew heavy, weighed down by frustration and resignation. Elias felt the familiar pull to join in, to commiserate, to validate the group's shared sense of helplessness. But then he paused, recalling the small victories he had achieved through belief and persistence. What if this was another opportunity to shift his perspective? What if we approached this differently? Elias asked, his voice cutting through the negativity. Instead of focusing on what hasn't worked, let's think about what we haven't tried yet. The room fell silent for a moment, the shift in tone catching his colleagues off guard. Slowly, the discussion began to pivot. Ideas started flowing, some unconventional but worth exploring. By the end of the meeting, the group had mapped out a plan that felt fresh and promising. It wasn't a guaranteed solution, but it was a step forward, one that left Elias with a sense of pride and clarity. He had seen firsthand how shifting his inner world could influence those around him. Elias's newfound awareness of his thoughts extended beyond the workplace. At home, he began paying attention to the mental narratives that shaped his daily life. He noticed how often his mind gravitated toward worst-case scenarios, magnifying small inconveniences into major obstacles. A missed bus became a ruined day. A critique from a colleague spiraled into fears of inadequacy. These thoughts, he realized, were not reflections of reality, but projections of his inner fears. To address this, Elias started a simple practice each morning. Before getting out of bed, he spent a few minutes visualizing the kind of day he wanted to have. He pictured himself navigating challenges with calm and confidence, finding joy in small moments, and ending the day with a sense of accomplishment. The practice felt awkward at first, like pretending to be someone he wasn't. But over time, it began to feel natural, even empowering. By shaping his expectations, Elias found that he was better equipped to handle whatever the day brought. One particularly transformative moment came during a conversation with his piano instructor, Clara. As Elias struggled to master a complex piece, his frustration boiled over. "I'll never get this right," he muttered, slamming his hands on the keys. Clara placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Do you hear what you're telling yourself?" she asked. "What if, instead of saying you'll never get it, you told yourself you're learning? That every mistake brings you closer to mastery." The simplicity of her suggestion struck Elias like a lightning bolt. He realized how often his inner dialogue was filled with self-defeating thoughts, reinforcing a sense of limitation. From that moment on, he committed to changing the way he spoke to himself. When he made mistakes, he reminded himself they were part of the process. When he felt overwhelmed, he told himself he was capable of handling the challenge. Slowly but surely, his inner world began to shift. As Elias practiced reshaping his thoughts, he became more attuned to the power of language and its impact on his emotions. He noticed how words like can't and never carried a weight that dragged him down, while words like can and possible lifted him up. He began choosing his words more carefully, both in his internal dialogue and in conversations with others. This change didn't go unnoticed. Friends and colleagues began commenting on Elias's newfound positivity and resilience. One day, a coworker named Hannah approached him after a meeting. "I've been meaning to tell you," she said, "your attitude lately has been really inspiring. It makes me want to approach things differently, too." Elias smiled, humbled by her words. He realized that his inner transformation was creating a ripple effect, influencing not just his own experiences, but also the people around him. It was a reminder that shaping his inner world wasn't just a personal endeavor. It was a way to contribute to something larger. As the months passed, Elias found himself taking on challenges he would have once avoided. He volunteered to lead a community project, organizing a fundraiser for a local arts program. The experience pushed him out of his comfort zone, requiring him to coordinate with diverse groups and navigate unexpected setbacks. But instead of succumbing to doubt, Elias approached each obstacle with curiosity and determination. When problems arose, he asked himself, "What can I learn from this?" rather than, "Why is this happening to me?" The fundraiser was a success, exceeding its goals and bringing the community together in a way that left Elias deeply fulfilled. Reflecting on the experience, he realized how much he had grown since that day in the park, when he had first dared to believe in something more. His inner world, once clouded by doubt and fear, had become a place of possibility and purpose. Elias's journey also deepened his relationships with the people closest to him. He found himself listening more intently, offering encouragement and support without judgment. He shared his experiences openly, not as a teacher, but as a fellow traveler on the path of growth. In turn, his friends and family began opening up to him in new ways, sharing their dreams and fears with a vulnerability that strengthened their bonds. One evening, Elias's younger sister, Mia, confided in him about her desire to start a business. I've been thinking about it for years, she said, but I'm so scared of failing. Elias took her hand and smiled. I used to feel the same way, he said. But I've learned that failure isn't the end. It's just a step on the journey. If you believe in yourself and take that first step, you'll be amazed at what you can achieve. Mia's eyes filled with tears as she hugged him. Thank you, she whispered. I think I needed to hear that. As Elias watched her walk away, he felt a deep sense of gratitude for the path he had chosen. The seed of belief had grown into something far greater than he had imagined, its branches extending into the lives of everyone it touched. That night, as Elias sat by his window, gazing at the stars, he reflected on the journey ahead. There would be challenges, of course, and moments of doubt. But he knew that as long as he nurtured his inner world, he could face whatever came his way. The possibilities were endless, limited only by the boundaries of his imagination. And as he drifted off to sleep, Elias felt a quiet certainty that those boundaries were meant to be broken. Chapter 3. Thoughts as Architects of Reality. Every day, the thoughts that pass through a person's mind shape the world they perceive, as if a silent architect designs reality brick by brick. Elias had begun to grasp this truth as he nurtured his belief and reshaped his inner world. But it wasn't until a pivotal experience at work that he truly understood how deeply intertwined thought and reality could be. It started with a project that no one wanted to touch, a revamp of the company's outdated internal communication system. For years, employees had complained about its inefficiency, but every attempt to overhaul it had stalled due to budget concerns, technical difficulties, or lack of leadership. The project had become a symbol of frustration, a monument to impossibility. When Elias's manager asked him to take the lead, his first instinct was to decline. The thought of tackling something so mired in failure felt overwhelming. But then he paused, reflecting on the lessons he'd been learning. If he approached this challenge with the same mindset that had helped him grow personally, could he find a way forward? Elias agreed to take on the project, and the first thing he did was gather a small team of colleagues who shared his determination. They began by examining the system's flaws, not as insurmountable obstacles, but as puzzles waiting to be solved. Each problem was broken down into smaller, more manageable parts, and the team brainstormed creative solutions. Throughout the process, Elias encouraged his team to stay focused on possibilities rather than limitations. The turning point came during a particularly intense meeting. The team had hit a roadblock, a technical issue that seemed impossible to resolve within their budget. Frustration bubbled up, and for a moment, the room fell into silence. Elias felt the familiar pull of doubt, the temptation to give up. But then he remembered his earlier commitment to shaping his thoughts. What if we're looking at this the wrong way? He said, breaking the silence. What if there's a solution we haven't considered yet? His words reignited the team's energy, and they began exploring alternative approaches. By the end of the meeting, they had devised a workaround that not only addressed the technical issue, but also saved money. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress, a testament to the power of shifting perspective. As the project moved forward, Elias began to see how his thoughts influenced not only his actions, but also the dynamics of the team. When he approached challenges with optimism and curiosity, his colleagues mirrored that energy. When he expressed gratitude for their efforts, their morale soared. It was as if his mindset set the tone for the entire group, creating a ripple effect that extended beyond the project itself. By the time the revamped system launched, it was met with widespread praise. Employees marveled at the improved functionality, and even the company's leadership took notice. For Elias, the success was more than just a professional achievement. It was a validation of the principles he had been embracing. His thoughts had not only shaped his reality, but had also helped transform the realities of those around him. This experience deepened Elias's commitment to understanding the relationship between thought and reality. He began reading books and articles on the subject, exploring everything from neuroscience to philosophy. One concept that resonated deeply with him was the idea of the reticular activating system, RAS, a network in the brain that filters information based on what a person focuses on. Elias learned that by directing his thoughts towards specific goals or opportunities, he could train his RAS to prioritize those things in his awareness. To put this into practice, Elias started setting daily intentions. Each morning, he wrote down 3 things he wanted to focus on, not just tasks but qualities like patience, creativity, or kindness. He found that this simple exercise helped him stay grounded and purposeful throughout the day. Even when unexpected challenges arose, he was better equipped to navigate them because his thoughts were aligned with his intentions. Elias's exploration of thought and reality also extended to his personal life. One evening, as he was having dinner with his sister Mia, she shared a story about a conflict with a coworker. "I can't stand him," she said, her frustration evident. "He's always so negative, and it's exhausting to be around him." Elias listened thoughtfully, then asked, "Have you ever tried looking for something positive about him, even if it's something small?" Mia frowned. "Why would I do that?" "Because what you focus on grows," Elias explained. "If you're always thinking about his negativity, that's all you'll notice. But if you try to find even one good thing about him, it might change the way you see him and the way you interact with him." Though skeptical, Mia decided to give it a try. Over the next few weeks, she made a conscious effort to look for positive qualities in her coworker. To her surprise, she began to notice moments of kindness and competence she had previously overlooked. As her perception shifted, so did their interactions. While their relationship wasn't perfect, it became more cooperative and less draining. Elias's ability to shape his thoughts also influenced his creative pursuits. At the piano, he began experimenting with improvisation, allowing his emotions and ideas to flow freely. Instead of striving for perfection, he embraced the imperfections that made each piece unique. This shift not only deepened his connection to the music, but also taught him valuable lessons about letting go of control and trusting the process. As Elias continued to explore the power of thought, he noticed a growing sense of agency in his life. Challenges that once seemed insurmountable now felt like opportunities for growth. Setbacks became stepping stones, each one offering a lesson or insight. And as his confidence grew, so did his willingness to dream bigger and take bolder risks. One day, while reflecting on his journey, Elias realized that his thoughts were not just architects of his reality. They were also bridges to his future. Each belief, each intention, each moment of focus was a brick in the path he was building toward the life he envisioned. And while the path was still unfolding, he felt a deep sense of gratitude for the progress he had made. That evening, as Elias sat by the window, watching the stars, he thought about the infinite possibilities that lay ahead. The universe seemed vast and unknowable, yet within it was the power of thought, a force capable of shaping worlds, forging connections, and creating meaning. With that realization, Elias felt a renewed sense of purpose, ready to continue building the life he had always imagined. Chapter 4: Overcoming Limiting Beliefs. Doubt is a powerful force, a quiet voice that whispers of inadequacy and failure, casting shadows over even the brightest aspirations. For Elias, overcoming doubt meant confronting not just the external obstacles in his path, but also the deeply ingrained beliefs that told him he wasn't enough. As his journey continued, he realized that limiting beliefs were not immutable truths, but stories he had accepted without question. Changing those stories would require courage, persistence, and a willingness to see himself in a new light. The first major confrontation with doubt came in the form of an opportunity that terrified Elias. His manager, impressed by the success of the communication system revamp, had nominated him to present at an industry conference. The event would be attended by leaders and innovators from across the field, and the thought of standing on that stage filled Elias with a mix of excitement and dread. His immediate reaction was to decline. Public speaking on such a grand scale felt far beyond his capabilities. But as he sat with the decision, Elias began to recognize the familiar patterns of his inner dialogue. "You're not good enough. You'll embarrass yourself. You don't belong there." These thoughts, he realized, were echoes of the limiting beliefs that had held him back for years. If he wanted to continue growing, he couldn't let those beliefs dictate his choices. Elias decided to take the plunge, even though the prospect made his stomach churn. He spent weeks preparing his presentation, rehearsing in front of mirrors, friends, and colleagues. Despite his efforts, the doubt lingered, creeping in during quiet moments and threatening to unravel his confidence. But this time, Elias didn't try to silence the doubt. Instead, he acknowledged it. "I hear you," he would say to himself, "but I'm doing this anyway." The day of the conference arrived, and Elias found himself backstage, clutching his notes with sweaty palms. As he stepped onto the stage, the bright lights and expectant faces made his heart race. But as he began to speak, something remarkable happened. The fear didn't disappear, but it softened, giving way to a steady determination. He focused on his message, on the value he wanted to share with his audience. By the time he finished, the room erupted in applause, and Elias felt a surge of pride unlike anything he had experienced before. Reflecting on the experience, Elias realized that the most significant victory wasn't the applause or the accolades. It was the act of showing up despite his fear. By facing his doubt head-on, he had proven to himself that he was capable of more than he had imagined. This realization marked a turning point in his journey, a shift in the way he approached challenges and setbacks. Eager to delve deeper into the roots of his limiting beliefs, Elias began journaling about his experiences. He wrote about the moments when doubt had held him back and the narratives he had internalized over the years. Patterns began to emerge, revealing the sources of his self-doubt. A critical teacher who had dismissed his creativity, a failed project that had left him questioning his abilities, a culture that equated vulnerability with weakness. These experiences had shaped his self-perception, but they didn't have to define him. One evening, while reflecting on his journal entries, Elias came across a quote that resonated deeply. "Your beliefs become your reality." The simplicity of the statement struck him. If his limiting beliefs had created barriers, then shifting those beliefs could open doors. He decided to experiment with this idea by rewriting the stories he told himself. Instead of saying, "I'm not good at this," he began saying, "I'm learning and improving every day." Instead of thinking, "I don't belong here," he reminded himself, "I have something valuable to contribute." This practice of reframing wasn't easy. The old narratives didn't fade overnight, and there were days when doubt felt overwhelming. But Elias persisted, treating each moment of doubt as an opportunity to choose a different response. Over time, he noticed subtle but significant changes. He felt more confident in meetings, more willing to share his ideas, and more open to taking risks. The world around him hadn't changed, but his perception of it had. One of the most profound shifts occurred during a conversation with Clara, his piano instructor. Elias had been struggling with a particularly challenging piece, and his frustration was palpable. "Maybe I'm just not cut out for this," he said, half joking but with a hint of resignation. Clara smiled and shook her head. "Do you know why so many people give up on the piano?" she asked. "It's not because they lack talent. It's because they expect perfection from the start. Mastery isn't about never making mistakes. It's about embracing the process, imperfections and all." Her words echoed in Elias's mind long after the lesson ended. He realized that much of his doubt stemmed from a fear of imperfection, a belief that he had to be flawless to be worthy of success. But what if imperfection wasn't a flaw? What if it was a necessary part of growth? This shift in perspective allowed Elias to approach challenges with greater compassion for himself, seeing mistakes not as failures but as stepping stones. As Elias continued to confront his limiting beliefs, he began to notice their presence in others. Friends, colleagues, and even strangers often spoke of their dreams in hesitant, self-deprecating tones. "I'd love to start a business, but I'm not entrepreneurial enough. I've always wanted to write a book, but I'm not a real writer." These statements, Elias realized, were echoes of the same doubts he had battled within himself. Inspired to help others break free from these narratives, Elias started sharing his journey more openly. He spoke about the power of belief during team meetings, offered encouragement to friends pursuing their goals, and even began mentoring a young colleague who reminded him of his younger self. Through these interactions, Elias saw how his own growth could create a ripple effect, inspiring others to challenge their own limiting beliefs. One evening, as Elias sat by the piano, he reflected on the progress he had made. The doubts that once felt like insurmountable barriers had become smaller, more manageable. They still appeared from time to time, but they no longer held the same power over him. Instead of avoiding challenges, he now saw them as opportunities to grow, to rewrite the stories that had shaped his life. The final notes of his practice piece filled the room, and Elias smiled, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. Overcoming limiting beliefs wasn't a one-time event, but an ongoing process, a journey of self-discovery and transformation. And as he looked ahead, he felt a quiet confidence that he could face whatever came next, not because he was fearless, but because he had learned to believe in his own resilience. In that moment, Elias understood that doubt wasn't the enemy. It was a teacher, a guide that pointed to the places where growth was needed most. And with each step forward, he was proving to himself that the only limits were the ones he chose to accept. Chapter 5: The Power of Visualization. As Elias continued his journey of self-discovery, he began to realize the profound impact of imagination on shaping reality. Visualization, he learned, wasn't merely wishful thinking or idle daydreaming. It was a powerful tool that could align his thoughts, emotions, and actions toward a desired outcome. The more vividly he imagined his goals, the more tangible they felt, as if the act of visualizing them brought them closer to fruition. Harnessing this power, however, required practice and intention. The first time Elias experimented with visualization was during a particularly stressful week at work. A major presentation loomed, one that could determine the direction of a new project. The stakes were high, and Elias felt the familiar grip of anxiety. As he sat at his desk, staring at his notes, he remembered an article he had read about athletes who used visualization to enhance their performance. They would picture themselves crossing the finish line, making the perfect shot, or executing a flawless routine. If it worked for them, Elias wondered, could it work for him? That evening, Elias set aside his notes and closed his eyes. He pictured himself standing confidently in the meeting room, speaking clearly and engaging his audience. He imagined their nods of approval, the way their faces lit up with interest, and the sense of accomplishment he would feel afterward. He focused on every detail, from the sound of his voice to the texture of the conference table. By the time he opened his eyes, the knot in his stomach had loosened, replaced by a quiet confidence. When the day of the presentation arrived, Elias felt nervous but prepared. As he began to speak, he found himself stepping into the role he had envisioned. The visualization hadn't eliminated his fear, but it had given him a roadmap, a mental rehearsal that guided him through the experience. By the end of the meeting, the project had been approved, and Elias felt a surge of gratitude for the practice that had helped him succeed. Encouraged by this success, Elias began incorporating visualization into other areas of his life. One morning, as he sat at his piano, he decided to try visualizing himself playing a piece he had been struggling with. Instead of focusing on the mistakes he might make, he pictured his fingers moving effortlessly across the keys, the melody flowing smoothly and beautifully. When he started playing, he was surprised by how much easier it felt. The mental rehearsal seemed to prime his mind and body, creating a sense of ease and familiarity. Elias's exploration of visualization deepened when he attended a workshop on goal setting and mindset. The instructor, a charismatic speaker named Andrea, emphasized the importance of clarity in visualization. The more specific you are, she explained, the more powerful your visualization becomes. Don't just imagine success in vague terms. Picture exactly what it looks like, sounds like, and feels like. Engage all your senses. Andrea led the group through an exercise, asking them to close their eyes and envision a goal they wanted to achieve. Elias chose a personal dream he had been hesitant to pursue, hosting a community event that combined music, art, and storytelling. He imagined the venue filled with people, the sound of laughter and applause, the vibrant colors of artwork displayed on the walls, and the melodies of a live performance. The vision felt so real that it left him both excited and determined. Over the next few weeks, Elias used visualization to guide his planning for the event. Whenever doubt crept in, he returned to the vivid image of the successful gathering he had pictured. The vision became a source of motivation, helping him push through challenges and stay focused on his goal. When the event finally took place, it exceeded his expectations, a testament to the power of imagining what was possible. Through these experiences, Elias began to understand that visualization wasn't just about imagining outcomes. It was about embodying them. By aligning his thoughts and emotions with his desired reality, he was able to act with greater confidence and purpose. Visualization became a bridge between his dreams and his actions, a tool that transformed possibility into reality. Elias also noticed how visualization influenced his relationships. When conflicts arose, he practiced envisioning positive resolutions. Instead of dwelling on the tension, he imagined conversations filled with understanding and mutual respect. This shift in mindset often changed the way he approached the situation, leading to more constructive and compassionate interactions. One memorable example occurred during a disagreement with his sister Mia. They had been planning a family gathering, and tensions flared over differing opinions about the arrangements. Frustrated, Elias took a step back and visualized the outcome he wanted, a harmonious event where everyone felt valued and included. He pictured himself speaking calmly and listening attentively to Mia's perspective. When they resumed the conversation, his approach softened the tension, and they were able to find a compromise that worked for both of them. As Elias continued to practice visualization, he discovered that it also deepened his sense of gratitude. By imagining the outcomes he desired, he often found himself appreciating the steps he had already taken and the progress he had made. This gratitude fueled his motivation, creating a positive cycle that reinforced his belief in what was possible. Eager to share what he had learned, Elias began introducing visualization techniques to his friends and colleagues. During a team meeting, he suggested that they start each session by envisioning the successful completion of their project. At first, the idea was met with skepticism, but as the team tried it, they noticed a shift in their dynamic. The practice created a sense of shared purpose and optimism, energizing their efforts and improving their collaboration. One evening, as Elias reflected on his journey, he realized how much his understanding of visualization had evolved. What had once seemed like a simple mental exercise had become a powerful tool for shaping his life. By imagining the reality he wanted, he had been able to navigate challenges, strengthen relationships, and pursue his dreams with clarity and conviction. The stars outside his window seemed to shimmer with possibility, a reminder of the infinite potential within and around him. Elias knew that there would always be obstacles and uncertainties, but he also knew that he had the power to shape his reality through the lens of his imagination. The path ahead was still unfolding, but with each step, he felt more confident in his ability to create the life he envisioned. Chapter 6. Embracing Failure as a Teacher. Failure is often perceived as the end of a road, a conclusive verdict on one's abilities or worth. But for Elias, the further he journeyed into the realms of belief and self-discovery, the more he began to see failure not as an end, but as a beginning, a teacher that offered lessons no success could provide. It was through his missteps and setbacks that Elias learned resilience, creativity, and the value of persistence. One of the most profound lessons in failure came during a professional setback that caught Elias off guard. After the success of his recent projects, he had been tasked with leading the implementation of a new company-wide system. The project was ambitious, involving multiple teams and complex logistics. Elias threw himself into the work, confident in his ability to navigate the challenges ahead. Despite his meticulous planning, things began to unravel within weeks. Technical glitches delayed progress, communication breakdowns created misunderstandings among teams, and unexpected budget constraints forced significant adjustments. Elias worked tirelessly to address each issue, but the obstacles seemed insurmountable. Eventually, the project was put on hold, and Elias was left grappling with feelings of failure and inadequacy. For days, he replayed the events in his mind, questioning every decision he had made. It was a painful process, but as the initial sting began to fade, Elias decided to approach the situation differently. Instead of dwelling on what had gone wrong, he asked himself a new question. What can I learn from this? With this shift in perspective, Elias began analyzing the project with a critical but constructive lens. He identified areas where communication could have been clearer, where risks could have been anticipated, and where collaboration could have been strengthened. These insights didn't erase the disappointment, but they gave him a sense of purpose, turning the setback into a stepping stone for future growth. Eager to put his newfound understanding into practice, Elias decided to share his experience with his team. During a meeting, he openly acknowledged the challenges they had faced and invited feedback on how they could improve moving forward. To his surprise, the conversation was not only productive but also uplifting. His colleagues appreciated his honesty and saw the discussion as an opportunity to learn and grow together. The experience reinforced Elias's belief that failure, when embraced with humility and curiosity, could be a powerful catalyst for progress. This lesson extended beyond Elias's professional life. In his personal pursuits, particularly his journey with the piano, failure became a familiar companion. There were days when his fingers stumbled over the keys, when frustration threatened to overshadow his love for the music. But each mistake taught him something about technique, about patience, and about the importance of perseverance. One evening, during a particularly challenging practice session, Clara offered him words that would stay with him for years. "Every wrong note is a step toward the right one," she said. "Failure isn't the opposite of success. It's part of it." Her words resonated deeply, reminding Elias that progress was rarely linear. Each misstep, each wrong note, was an integral part of the learning process. With this mindset, he began approaching his practice with greater resilience, celebrating small victories and viewing setbacks as opportunities to refine his skills. Elias's evolving relationship with failure also influenced his interactions with others. He noticed how often friends and colleagues spoke of their own failures with shame or regret, as if these moments defined them. Determined to shift this narrative, Elias began sharing his experiences more openly, emphasizing the lessons he had learned and the growth that had come from his struggles. One such conversation occurred with his sister Mia, who had recently launched her own business. Despite her initial excitement, Mia was feeling discouraged after a series of setbacks. "I feel like I'm not cut out for this," she admitted, her voice heavy with doubt. Elias listened carefully, then said, "Do you remember the fundraiser I organized last year? It was a success in the end, but only because of all the lessons I learned from the mistakes I made along the way. Every challenge you face is teaching you something valuable. Don't let the fear of failure keep you from moving forward." Mia's expression softened as she considered his words. "I hadn't thought of it that way," she said. "Maybe these setbacks are just part of the process." As Elias continued to embrace failure as a teacher, he found himself taking on challenges he might have once avoided. He volunteered to mentor a group of interns at work, knowing that the role would require patience and adaptability. He signed up for a community art class, despite having little experience with painting. Each endeavor brought its own set of difficulties, but it also brought new insights and opportunities for growth. One of the most transformative moments came during a community event where Elias had been invited to speak about his journey. Standing before an audience of strangers, he shared the story of his recent professional setback and the lessons it had taught him. As he spoke, he saw nods of recognition in the crowd, a silent acknowledgement that failure was a universal experience. After the event, a young woman approached him with tears in her eyes. "Thank you for sharing your story," she said. "I've been so afraid of failing that I've been holding myself back. Hearing you talk about failure as a teacher makes me feel like I can try again." Her words reaffirmed what Elias had come to believe, that failure, when met with openness and resilience, could inspire not only personal growth, but also connection and understanding. It was a reminder that his journey was not just about his own transformation, but about the impact he could have on others by sharing what he had learned. As Elias reflected on his evolving relationship with failure, he felt a profound sense of gratitude. The missteps and setbacks he had once feared had become some of his greatest teachers, guiding him toward a deeper understanding of himself and the world around him. Failure was no longer something to be avoided or feared. It was a necessary and valuable part of the journey. Sitting at his piano that evening, Elias played a piece he had once struggled to master. The notes flowed smoothly, each one a testament to the hours of practice, the countless mistakes, and the unwavering persistence that had brought him to this moment. As the final chord echoed through the room, he smiled, knowing that every wrong note had been worth it. Chapter 7. The Art of Gratitude and Faith. As Elias ventured further into his journey of self-discovery, he began to notice a shift in his perspective, a subtle yet profound change in how he viewed his experiences, challenges, and triumphs. This shift was rooted in the practice of gratitude, a concept he had once dismissed as a simple platitude. But as he explored its depths, gratitude revealed itself to be a transformative force, capable of reshaping his understanding of himself and the world around him. The first seeds of gratitude were planted during a conversation with Clara, his piano instructor. After a particularly frustrating practice session, Elias vented his frustrations, lamenting his slow progress. Clara listened patiently, then offered a gentle reminder. "Do you remember where you started?" she asked. "Every note you play today is a step forward from where you were yesterday. Gratitude for those small steps can carry you further than frustration ever will." Her words resonated deeply, prompting Elias to reflect on his journey. He thought back to his early lessons, when even the simplest melodies felt insurmountable. Compared to those first faltering notes, his current struggles seemed almost trivial. For the first time, Elias began to appreciate the progress he had made, rather than fixating on how far he had yet to go. Inspired by this realization, Elias decided to incorporate gratitude into his daily routine. Each morning, he wrote down 3 things he was grateful for, no matter how small. Some days, his list included simple pleasures like the warmth of the sun or the taste of his morning coffee. Other days, it featured moments of connection with friends, accomplishments at work, or the lessons he had learned from challenges. Over time, this practice became a cornerstone of his mornings, grounding him in a sense of appreciation that carried him through the day. One particularly transformative moment came during a challenging period at work. A project Elias had been leading faced unexpected delays, and tensions among his team members were running high. Feeling the weight of responsibility, Elias struggled to maintain his usual optimism. One evening, as he reviewed the day's events, he decided to apply his gratitude practice to the situation. Instead of focusing on the setbacks, he listed the aspects of the project he was thankful for: the dedication of his team, the lessons he was learning about leadership, and the opportunity to tackle a complex challenge. This shift in perspective didn't erase the difficulties, but it gave Elias a renewed sense of purpose and resilience. The next day, he approached his team with a spirit of encouragement, acknowledging their efforts and expressing gratitude for their hard work. His words had an immediate impact, lifting the team's morale and reigniting their determination to see the project through. Gratitude, Elias realized, wasn't just a personal practice. It was a gift he could share with others, fostering connection and collaboration. As Elias deepened his practice of gratitude, he began to see its connection to faith, not in a religious sense, but as a belief in the inherent goodness of life and the possibilities it held. Gratitude, he realized, was a way of affirming that even in the midst of challenges, there was something to be appreciated, something to hold on to as a source of strength. This faith in the journey, in the unseen threads that wove his experiences together, became a guiding light in his life. Elias's understanding of gratitude and faith was further enriched by a chance encounter with an old friend, Lucas. They hadn't seen each other in years, and as they caught up over coffee, Lucas shared his own journey of overcoming adversity. He spoke about a period of profound loss and hardship, and how he had found solace in focusing on the small blessings that remained. "Gratitude saved me," Lucas said simply. "It reminded me that even in the darkest times, there's still light to be found." Lucas's story left a lasting impression on Elias, reinforcing the power of gratitude as a source of hope and resilience. Inspired by his friend's example, Elias began seeking out moments of gratitude even in the most difficult circumstances. When faced with setbacks, he asked himself, "What can I learn from this? What can I appreciate about this experience?" These questions didn't always yield immediate answers, but they opened the door to a more compassionate and balanced perspective. Elias's practice of gratitude also began to influence his relationships. He made a conscious effort to express his appreciation to the people in his life, whether through a heartfelt compliment, a handwritten note, or a simple thank you. These gestures, though small, had a profound impact, strengthening his connections and deepening his sense of community. One evening, after thanking a colleague for their support on a project, Elias received an unexpected reply. "Your gratitude means more than you know. It reminds me why I do what I do." This moment underscored the ripple effect of gratitude, how a single act of appreciation could inspire and uplift others. Elias began to see gratitude as a form of abundance, a way of sharing the richness of his own journey with those around him. It wasn't about ignoring challenges or pretending everything was perfect. It was about acknowledging the good that existed alongside the difficulties. One evening, as Elias reflected on his journey, he was struck by a profound sense of interconnectedness. Gratitude and faith, he realized, were like two sides of the same coin. Gratitude anchored him in the present, reminding him of the beauty and lessons in each moment. Faith, on the other hand, propelled him forward, giving him the courage to embrace the unknown and trust in the unfolding of his path. Together, they created a foundation of resilience and hope, a wellspring of strength that carried him through life's ups and downs. Sitting at his piano, Elias played a piece that had once seemed impossible to master. As the notes filled the room, he felt a wave of gratitude for the journey that had brought him to this moment, for the struggles that had shaped him, the people who had supported him, and the lessons he had learned along the way. Each note was a testament to the power of gratitude and faith, a reminder that even in the face of uncertainty, there was always something to be thankful for. As the final chord echoed through the room, Elias closed his eyes, letting the music and the moment wash over him. Gratitude wasn't just a practice. It was a way of being, a lens through which he could see the world in all its complexity and wonder. And with each passing day, he felt more deeply connected to that truth, more certain that the art of gratitude and faith would continue to guide him on his journey. Chapter 8: Faith in Action. Faith, Elias realized, was more than just an abstract concept. It was an active force, a choice made moment by moment to trust in the unseen and to step forward despite uncertainty. As his journey continued, he discovered that faith wasn't something he could simply think or feel. It was something he had to live. By putting his faith into action, Elias began to unlock doors he hadn't even known existed. The first true test of his faith in action came during a crossroads in his career. Following the success of the revamped communication system, Elias was approached with an unexpected opportunity, a leadership role in a newly formed department. The position was a significant step up, one that would challenge him in ways he had never experienced. But with the offer came an undercurrent of doubt. Could he handle the responsibility? Did he have what it took to lead a team? For days, Elias wrestled with the decision, his thoughts oscillating between excitement and apprehension. He sought advice from mentors, friends, and colleagues, but their perspectives only highlighted the complexity of the choice. Finally, he turned inward, asking himself the question that had guided him through so many challenges. What do I believe is possible? The answer wasn't immediate, but it came as Elias reflected on his journey. He thought about the moments when he had taken risks, faced fears, and grown in ways he hadn't thought possible. Each of those moments had been a leap of faith, a step into the unknown fueled by the belief that he could rise to the occasion. With that realization, Elias made his decision. He accepted the role, not because he was free of doubt, but because he was willing to trust in his ability to learn and grow. The early days in his new position were challenging. Leading a team required skills Elias was still developing: clear communication, conflict resolution, and the ability to inspire and motivate others. There were moments when he questioned whether he had made the right choice, moments when the weight of responsibility felt overwhelming. But each time doubt crept in, Elias reminded himself of the power of faith in action. He approached each challenge as an opportunity to learn, each setback as a stepping stone. One of the most defining moments in his new role came during a major project that required cross-departmental collaboration. The project scope was ambitious, involving tight deadlines and competing priorities. As tensions rose, Elias's team began to feel the strain, their confidence wavering in the face of mounting pressure. Sensing the need for a reset, Elias called a team meeting. "I know this project feels overwhelming," he said, addressing the group. "But I also know that we're capable of achieving great things when we work together. Let's focus on what we can control, take it one step at a time, and trust in our ability to figure things out as we go." His words struck a chord, rekindling a sense of purpose and determination among the team. By emphasizing trust and collaboration, Elias helped create an environment where creativity and problem-solving could thrive. The project was ultimately a success, a testament to the power of collective faith in action. As Elias reflected on the experience, he realized that faith wasn't about eliminating uncertainty. It was about embracing it. By stepping into the unknown with courage and conviction, he had discovered new strengths within himself and his team. This understanding deepened his commitment to living his faith, not just in his professional life, but in every aspect of his journey. Elias's exploration of faith in action also extended to his personal pursuits. At the piano, he began experimenting with improvisation, allowing himself to play without a predefined plan. The process was both liberating and intimidating, requiring him to trust in his instincts and let go of the need for perfection. Over time, he found that the most beautiful moments often emerged from the unexpected, when he allowed himself to follow the flow of the music. This lesson carried over into his relationships as well. Elias began approaching conversations with greater openness, listening not just to respond, but to truly understand. He made an effort to express his feelings and intentions honestly, even when it felt vulnerable. One evening, during a heartfelt conversation with his sister Mia, he shared his thoughts about their parents' influence on their lives. "I used to think that I had to live up to their expectations," Elias admitted. "But now I realize that what they wanted most was for us to find our own paths. Having faith in myself has helped me see that." Mia nodded, her eyes filled with understanding. "It's funny," she said. "I've been feeling the same way. It's like we're both learning to trust ourselves more." This exchange deepened their bond, reaffirming Elias's belief in the importance of authenticity and trust in relationships. By living his faith, he was creating connections that were more genuine and meaningful. Eager to share what he had learned, Elias began mentoring younger colleagues at work, encouraging them to embrace challenges and take ownership of their growth. He spoke openly about his own journey, emphasizing that faith wasn't about having all the answers, but about trusting the process. His guidance inspired many of his mates, some of whom later shared stories of how his support had helped them overcome their own doubts. One evening, as Elias reflected on his journey, he felt a profound sense of gratitude for the role faith had played in his life. It had carried him through uncertainty, guided him toward growth, and connected him with others in ways he hadn't anticipated. Faith in action, he realized, was not just about achieving goals, it was about embracing the journey, with all its twists and turns. Sitting by his piano, Elias began to play a melody that had been forming in his mind for days. The notes flowed freely, weaving together themes of courage, trust, and possibility. As the music filled the room, he felt a deep sense of peace, knowing that his journey was far from over. There were still challenges ahead, still unknowns to navigate. But with each step, he was learning to trust himself, to trust the process, and to live his faith with intention and grace. Chapter 9. Resilience through Reinvention. Life has a way of testing resolve when least expected, presenting challenges that demand not just strength, but adaptability. For Elias, the next chapter of his journey was one of resilience through reinvention, a period where he learned that true growth often required letting go of the old to make space for the new. This lesson came in the form of an unexpected upheaval that forced him to reimagine not only his career, but also his vision of himself. It began with an announcement that shook the foundation of Elias's workplace. The company, facing industry shifts and financial pressures, announced a major restructuring. Departments were being merged, roles reassigned, and projects reprioritized. Elias's position, once a cornerstone of the organization's operations, was deemed redundant. The news hit him like a tidal wave, leaving him grappling with feelings of loss and uncertainty. For days, Elias wrestled with the implications. His role had been more than a job. It had been a source of identity and purpose. The idea of starting over felt daunting, as if the ground beneath him had been swept away. Yet, amidst the swirl of emotions, a small, steady voice within reminded him of the lessons he had learned about belief, adaptability, and the power of choice. Determined to find a way forward, Elias began exploring his options. He updated his resume, reached out to professional contacts, and immersed himself in job listings. But as the days turned into weeks, he realized that simply seeking another similar role wasn't enough. The restructuring had not only ended a chapter in his career, but also opened a door to reimagine what he truly wanted. Elias took a step back, reflecting on the skills and passions that had brought him fulfillment. He thought about the moments when he had felt most alive, leading his team through challenges, mentoring younger colleagues, and creating connections through music and storytelling. These reflections sparked an idea. What if he could combine his professional expertise with his love for creativity and connection? The idea grew into a vision for a consultancy that focused on team building and leadership development, blending practical strategies with creative approaches. Elias imagined workshops that used music and art to foster collaboration, storytelling exercises to build empathy, and hands-on activities to inspire innovation. It was an unconventional concept, but the more he envisioned it, the more it felt like a natural extension of his journey. With renewed purpose, Elias set to work. He researched the logistics of starting a consultancy, from registering a business to designing programs. He connected with former colleagues and industry leaders, seeking advice and gauging interest. The process was filled with challenges, moments of self-doubt, financial constraints, and the steep learning curve of entrepreneurship. But through it all, Elias drew on the resilience he had cultivated, reminding himself that reinvention was a process, not an overnight transformation. One of the first opportunities to test his vision came when a former client invited him to lead a team-building workshop for their organization. Elias spent weeks preparing, crafting a program that blended his expertise in communication with creative elements like collaborative music making and storytelling. When the day of the workshop arrived, he felt a mix of excitement and nerves, unsure of how the unconventional approach would be received. As the workshop unfolded, Elias watched with a sense of awe as the participants engaged deeply with the activities. Laughter filled the room as teams created impromptu musical pieces, and moments of vulnerability emerged during storytelling exercises. By the end of the day, the group's dynamic had transformed, with participants expressing newfound understanding and appreciation for one another. The experience was a resounding success, reaffirming Elias's belief in his vision. Encouraged by this milestone, Elias began building momentum. He refined his offerings, developed a brand identity, and leveraged social media to share his message. Over time, his consultancy gained traction, attracting clients who were drawn to his innovative approach. Each project brought new challenges and opportunities, pushing Elias to continue learning and evolving. Through this process, Elias discovered that resilience wasn't just about enduring adversity. It was about using adversity as a catalyst for growth. The restructuring that had initially felt like a loss had become a turning point, an invitation to reimagine his path and embrace possibilities he hadn't considered before. By leaning into the discomfort of reinvention, Elias had found a new sense of purpose and direction. The journey also deepened Elias's understanding of himself. He learned to trust his instincts, to take risks, and to find strength in vulnerability. There were moments of doubt and setbacks along the way, but each one became an opportunity to practice the resilience he had cultivated. With every challenge, Elias reminded himself of the lessons he had learned, that failure was a teacher, that belief could shape reality, and that gratitude could anchor him in the present. Elias's reinvention also inspired those around him. Friends and colleagues marveled at his ability to adapt and thrive in the face of uncertainty. His story became a source of encouragement for others navigating their own challenges, a reminder that resilience was a skill that could be nurtured and developed. Elias often shared his experiences openly, emphasizing that reinvention wasn't about having all the answers, but about being willing to explore the unknown. One evening, as Elias reflected on his journey, he felt a profound sense of gratitude for the twists and turns that had brought him to this point. The restructuring, which had once felt like an ending, had become a beginning, an opportunity to align his work with his passions and values. His path was still unfolding, but he felt more grounded and purposeful than ever before. Sitting at his piano, Elias played a melody that seemed to capture the essence of his journey, a blend of uncertainty and possibility, struggle and triumph. The notes flowed freely, each one a testament to the resilience and reinvention that had defined his path. As the music filled the room, Elias smiled, knowing that the journey was far from over. There would be more challenges ahead, but with each step, he was becoming more deeply connected to the person he was meant to be. Chapter 10. The Power of Connection. The threads of life are woven not in isolation, but through the relationships and connections that bind people together. As Elias delved deeper into his journey, he began to recognize the profound role that human connection played in shaping not just his experiences, but also his sense of purpose and fulfillment. The lessons he had learned about belief, resilience, and gratitude came alive in his interactions with others, transforming the way he approached relationships and community. Elias's awakening to the power of connection began with a simple yet profound realization. He couldn't navigate his journey alone. Despite his growing self-awareness and confidence, he often found himself leaning on the support and encouragement of friends, family, and colleagues. Each time someone offered a kind word, a listening ear, or a helping hand, Elias felt a spark of inspiration that reminded him of the strength found in togetherness. One such moment occurred during a particularly challenging week. Elias had been juggling multiple responsibilities, from his new consultancy projects to personal commitments, and the weight of it all was beginning to take a toll. One evening, his sister Mia called unexpectedly. "I just wanted to check in on you," she said. "You've been working so hard, and I'm here if you need anything." Her words, though simple, brought tears to Elias's eyes. He hadn't realized how much he needed someone to acknowledge his efforts and offer support. The conversation reminded him of the importance of vulnerability, of allowing himself to lean on others and share the burdens he often tried to carry alone. Inspired by Mia's gesture, Elias began to approach his relationships with greater intention. He made an effort to reach out to friends and family, not just when he needed help, but also to express gratitude and offer support. These small acts of connection deepened his bonds and created a sense of reciprocity that enriched his life. He realized that relationships weren't just about receiving support. They were about giving it as well. This understanding extended to his professional life. As Elias worked with clients and collaborators, he noticed how often people operated in silos, focusing on their individual goals without considering the collective impact. Determined to foster a more collaborative environment, Elias began incorporating team-building exercises into his workshops. These activities encouraged participants to share their stories, listen to one another, and build trust. One memorable exercise involved a storytelling circle, where each participant was invited to share a personal experience that had shaped their perspective. As the stories unfolded, Elias watched as barriers dissolved and connections formed. People who had once viewed each other as colleagues or competitors began to see each other as individuals with shared struggles and aspirations. The exercise not only strengthened the team dynamic, but also reinforced Elias's belief in the transformative power of storytelling as a tool for connection. Elias's exploration of connection also led him to engage more deeply with his local community. He began volunteering at a neighborhood art center, teaching music classes to children, and organizing events that brought people together. Through these efforts, he witnessed the impact of collective creativity and collaboration. The joy of playing music, painting murals, and sharing stories created a sense of belonging that transcended individual differences. One evening, during a community event, Elias met an older man named Harold. Harold had been a musician in his youth, but had set aside his passion due to life's demands. As they spoke, Harold shared his longing to reconnect with music and his hesitation to take that first step. Elias listened intently, then invited Harold to join one of his classes. "It's never too late to start again," Elias said. "Music has a way of bringing us back to ourselves." Harold accepted the invitation, and over the weeks that followed, Elias watched as the man's confidence and joy blossomed. The experience reminded Elias of the ripple effect of connection, how a single gesture of encouragement could spark a chain reaction of growth and inspiration. Harold's journey became a testament to the idea that connection wasn't just about forging relationships. It was about empowering one another to reach new heights. Elias's deepening appreciation for connection also influenced his perspective on leadership. As he worked with teams and organizations, he realized that effective leadership wasn't about authority or control. It was about creating an environment where people felt valued, heard, and supported. He began incorporating this philosophy into his workshops, encouraging leaders to prioritize empathy and communication. One of the most impactful moments came during a leadership retreat Elias facilitated. The participants were asked to pair up and share a challenge they were facing, followed by a moment of silence where the listeners simply held space for the speaker's emotions. The exercise, though simple, had a profound effect. Many participants later shared that the experience had deepened their understanding of the power of active listening and the importance of creating safe spaces for vulnerability. As Elias continued to explore the power of connection, he noticed a shift in his own life. The relationships he nurtured became sources of inspiration and resilience, grounding him during moments of doubt and propelling him forward during times of growth. He also found that the more he invested in others, the more fulfilled he felt, as if the act of connecting was itself a form of nourishment. One evening, as Elias sat by his piano, he reflected on the journey that had brought him to this point. The music he played felt richer, more layered, as if infused with the essence of the connections he had formed. Each note was a reminder of the people who had supported him, challenged him, and inspired him along the way. As the final chord echoed through the room, Elias smiled, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. The power of connection wasn't just about building relationships. It was about weaving a tapestry of shared experiences, a network of support and inspiration that extended far beyond himself. With this realization, Elias felt more ready than ever to continue his journey, knowing that he was never truly alone. Chapter 11. Discovering Purpose in the Journey. Purpose is often seen as a distant destination, a singular achievement that defines one's life. But as Elias continued his exploration of belief, resilience, and connection, he began to understand that purpose wasn't a static endpoint. It was a dynamic and evolving force, woven into the fabric of everyday experiences. This realization marked the beginning of a new chapter in his journey, one in which purpose became not a goal to be reached, but a way of being. Elias's deepening awareness of purpose was sparked by an invitation to speak at a community event celebrating local changemakers. The theme of the event, finding meaning in the everyday, resonated with him, but it also posed a challenge. What could he say about purpose when he still felt like he was uncovering its many layers? As he prepared for the event, Elias reflected on his journey so far. He thought about the moments that had brought him joy, the challenges that had shaped him, and the connections that had enriched his life. A pattern began to emerge. Purpose wasn't confined to grand achievements or life-altering decisions. It was present in the small, seemingly mundane acts that carried intention and meaning. Helping a colleague overcome a challenge, encouraging a friend to pursue a dream, or simply playing a melody that brought comfort to his own heart. When the day of the event arrived, Elias stood before the audience with a mix of excitement and nervousness. "We often think of purpose as something we have to find," he began. "But what if purpose is something we create, moment by moment, through the choices we make and the way we show up in the world?" His words resonated deeply, sparking a thoughtful dialogue among the attendees. People shared stories of how they had found meaning in unexpected places. A parent finding purpose in nurturing their child's curiosity, a retiree discovering joy in volunteering, a young artist using their work to inspire others. The experience reaffirmed Elias's belief that purpose was as diverse and unique as the individuals who sought it. This new understanding of purpose began to influence every aspect of Elias's life. In his consultancy work, he started emphasizing the importance of aligning personal values with professional goals. He encouraged clients to ask themselves not just what they wanted to achieve, but why it mattered to them. This shift in focus often led to profound breakthroughs, as people discovered deeper motivations and found greater fulfillment in their work. One memorable client was a small business owner named Carla, who was struggling to balance the demands of running her company with her desire to make a positive impact in her community. During their sessions, Elias guided Carla through exercises to identify her core values and the legacy she wanted to create. Through this process, Carla realized that her true passion lay in mentorship. She began integrating mentorship programs into her business, providing opportunities for young entrepreneurs to learn and grow. The transformation not only revitalized Carla's sense of purpose, but also strengthened her connection to her community. Elias's own sense of purpose continued to evolve as he pursued his creative passions. Music, which had once been a personal outlet, became a way to connect with others and inspire change. He began hosting community music nights, inviting people of all ages and backgrounds to share their talents and stories. These gatherings became a celebration of creativity and connection, a reminder of the beauty that emerged when people came together with a shared sense of purpose. One evening, during a particularly moving performance, Elias watched as a young girl nervously approached the piano. Her hands trembled as she played, but the audience's warm encouragement gave her the confidence to continue. By the end of her piece, the room erupted in applause, and the girl's face lit up with a mixture of pride and joy. The moment left a lasting impression on Elias, reinforcing his belief in the transformative power of purpose-driven action. As Elias continued to explore purpose, he also grappled with moments of doubt and uncertainty. There were days when he questioned whether he was on the right path, whether his efforts were making a meaningful impact. During these times, he turned to his journal, reflecting on the lessons he had learned and the progress he had made. He reminded himself that purpose wasn't about perfection or constant clarity. It was about staying true to his values and trusting the process. One of the most profound insights Elias gained during this period was the importance of self-compassion. He realized that purpose wasn't about relentless striving or achieving. It was about embracing the journey, including its imperfections. This shift in mindset allowed him to approach challenges with greater patience and resilience, seeing setbacks not as failures, but as opportunities for growth. Elias's evolving relationship with purpose also deepened his connections with others. He found that by sharing his own journey, including its struggles and triumphs, he was able to inspire and support those around him. Friends and colleagues often turned to him for guidance, drawn to his authenticity and willingness to explore life's complexities. Through these interactions, Elias discovered that his purpose wasn't just about what he achieved, but about the impact he had on others. One evening, as Elias reflected on his journey, he felt a profound sense of gratitude for the experiences that had shaped him. The lessons of belief, resilience, and connection had not only guided him through challenges, but had also revealed the many facets of purpose. He realized that purpose wasn't a destination to be reached, but a journey to be embraced, a lifelong exploration of meaning and possibility. Sitting at his piano, Elias played a melody that captured the essence of his journey. The notes flowed with a sense of hope and wonder, each one a testament to the power of purpose in motion. As the music filled the room, Elias smiled, knowing that the path ahead was still unfolding. With each step, he was discovering new dimensions of purpose, guided by the values and connections that brought his journey to life. Chapter 12. Embracing Growth Through Change. Change is inevitable, yet it often arrives unannounced, disrupting the comfortable rhythms of life and demanding adaptation. For Elias, change had always been something to navigate cautiously, a force that felt both uncertain and necessary. But as he delved deeper into his journey, he began to see change not as a threat, but as a catalyst for growth, a teacher that offered invaluable lessons about resilience and transformation. The realization came during a season of unexpected upheaval. Elias had settled into a comfortable routine with his consultancy, his workshops garnering praise and expanding his network. Yet, beneath the surface, he sensed a stagnation creeping in. The excitement that had fueled his early efforts began to wane, replaced by a sense of complacency. It wasn't dissatisfaction, exactly, but a quiet yearning for something more. The catalyst for change arrived in the form of an invitation. A prestigious international organization, impressed by Elias's innovative approach to leadership and team building, offered him a chance to lead a multi-month program abroad. The opportunity was thrilling but daunting, requiring him to uproot his life temporarily and immerse himself in a new culture, language, and professional environment. It was a leap into the unknown, and the prospect both exhilarated and terrified him. Elias spent days deliberating, weighing the potential risks and rewards. On one hand, the opportunity aligned with his values and aspirations, offering a platform to share his work on a global scale. On the other hand, it meant stepping away from the stability he had built and confronting challenges that lay far outside his comfort zone. Ultimately, it was a question that had guided him through so many crossroads that sealed his decision. What do I believe is possible? With a mixture of anticipation and apprehension, Elias accepted the offer. The months leading up to his departure were a whirlwind of preparation, from learning the basics of the language to coordinating logistics for his projects back home. Each step brought its own set of challenges, but Elias approached them with a newfound perspective, seeing them as opportunities to grow rather than obstacles to overcome. When Elias arrived in the bustling city that would become his temporary home, he was immediately struck by the vibrancy and complexity of his surroundings. The unfamiliar sights, sounds, and customs felt overwhelming at first, but they also sparked a sense of curiosity and wonder. Determined to make the most of the experience, Elias threw himself into his work, collaborating with diverse teams and navigating the nuances of cross-cultural communication. The program itself was unlike anything Elias had undertaken before. Leading workshops in a foreign language required patience and creativity, as did adapting his methods to suit the unique dynamics of each group. There were moments of frustration when his ideas didn't translate as expected, and instances of self-doubt when he questioned his ability to connect with participants. Yet, with each challenge, Elias found ways to adapt, drawing on the resilience he had cultivated and the lessons he had learned. One particularly transformative moment came during a workshop with a group of young professionals. As they discussed the challenges of leadership, one participant shared a deeply personal story about overcoming adversity in their community. The vulnerability and strength in their words moved the entire room, sparking a conversation about the power of resilience and collective action. For Elias, it was a reminder of why he had embarked on this journey, to foster connections that inspired growth and transformation. Outside of his professional commitments, Elias embraced the opportunity to explore his new environment. He wandered through vibrant markets, attended cultural festivals, and even joined a local music group. These experiences deepened his appreciation for the richness of diversity and the ways in which change could broaden his horizons. He found that stepping outside his comfort zone not only expanded his perspective, but also enriched his sense of self. As the program drew to a close, Elias reflected on how much he had grown. The experience had challenged him in ways he hadn't anticipated, pushing him to confront his limitations and embrace his potential. It had also reinforced a profound truth. Growth was not a destination, but a continuous process, one that required openness, curiosity, and the willingness to embrace change. Returning home, Elias felt a renewed sense of purpose and clarity. He approached his work with fresh ideas, incorporating the insights and techniques he had gained during his time abroad. His workshops became more dynamic, his connections more meaningful, and his vision more expansive. The experience had not only deepened his understanding of his craft, but also strengthened his belief in the power of growth through change. Elias's journey of embracing growth also inspired those around him. Friends, colleagues, and clients often sought his advice, drawn to his authenticity and willingness to share his experiences. He spoke openly about the challenges he had faced and the lessons he had learned, emphasizing that growth wasn't about perfection, but about progress. His story became a source of encouragement, reminding others that change, though daunting, could lead to profound transformation. One evening, as Elias sat at his piano, he played a piece that had become a symbol of his journey. The notes flowed with a sense of purpose and possibility, capturing the essence of the lessons he had learned. Each chord was a reminder of the resilience, curiosity, and courage that had carried him through moments of uncertainty and propelled him toward growth. As the final notes echoed through the room, Elias smiled, feeling a deep sense of gratitude for the path he had traveled. Change was no longer something to fear, but something to embrace, a force that could shape not just the future, but the person he was becoming. With this realization, he felt ready to face whatever lay ahead, knowing that each step, no matter how uncertain, held the potential for growth and discovery. Chapter 13. The Power of Self-Reflection. Amid the whirlwind of accomplishments and challenges, Elias began to recognize the quiet, transformative power of self-reflection. It was in the stillness of introspection that he found clarity, understanding, and a deeper connection to his journey. This chapter of his life became one of turning inward, of pausing to examine the patterns, choices, and lessons that had shaped him. Elias's journey into self-reflection started with a simple practice, setting aside time each evening to journal. Initially, his entries were sporadic and surface level, recounting the events of the day without much analysis. But over time, his writing deepened, evolving into a space where he could explore his thoughts, emotions, and aspirations with honesty and vulnerability. The act of putting pen to paper became a ritual of discovery, a way to process the complexities of his experiences and uncover insights that often eluded him in the moment. One evening, as Elias reread his journal entries from the past year, he was struck by the recurring themes that emerged. He noticed patterns of doubt and resilience, of fear and courage, of mistakes and growth. These reflections illuminated the threads that connected his experiences, revealing how each challenge had contributed to his development. For the first time, he saw his journey not as a series of isolated events, but as a cohesive narrative of transformation. This newfound perspective inspired Elias to dig deeper into the practice of self-reflection. He began experimenting with different techniques, from guided meditation to mindfulness exercises. These practices helped him cultivate a sense of presence, allowing him to observe his thoughts and feelings without judgment. Through this process, he discovered the importance of asking himself meaningful questions, not just about what he was doing, but about why he was doing it and how it aligned with his values. One of the most profound insights came during a meditation retreat Elias attended at the recommendation of a friend. The retreat's focus was on exploring the relationship between intention and action, a theme that resonated deeply with him. Over the course of several days, Elias engaged in silent reflection, journaling, and group discussions. It was during one of these sessions that a facilitator posed a question that stayed with him. What would your life look like if you acted in complete alignment with your values? The question stirred something within Elias, prompting him to reevaluate the choices he was making. While he felt proud of the progress he had achieved, he also recognized areas where he had strayed from his core values. There were moments when he had prioritized external validation over authenticity, when he had allowed fear to dictate his decisions. This realization wasn't about self-criticism, but about self-awareness, an opportunity to course-correct and realign with what truly mattered. As Elias continued to embrace self-reflection, he began incorporating it into his work with clients. During workshops and coaching sessions, he encouraged participants to explore their own values, beliefs, and motivations. He guided them through exercises designed to uncover their inner narratives and identify the barriers holding them back. These sessions often led to profound breakthroughs, as individuals gained a clearer understanding of themselves and their paths. One memorable moment occurred during a leadership retreat Elias facilitated. A participant named Sophia, a high-achieving executive, shared her struggle with burnout and a sense of disconnection from her work. Through guided reflection, Elias helped Sophia identify the values she had once held dear but had gradually set aside in the pursuit of success. By reconnecting with these values, Sophia was able to redefine her goals and make changes that brought greater balance and fulfillment to her life. Elias's own self-reflection also led to a deeper appreciation for the people who had influenced his journey. He began reaching out to mentors, friends, and family members, expressing gratitude for their guidance and support. These conversations not only strengthened his relationships, but also reminded him of the interconnectedness of his experiences. Each person, each interaction, had played a role in shaping the person he was becoming. One evening, as Elias reflected on a particularly challenging period of his life, he was struck by a powerful realization. Self-reflection wasn't just about looking back. It was about looking forward. By understanding his past, he could make more intentional choices about his future. This realization inspired him to create a vision board, a tangible representation of his aspirations and values. The board became a source of inspiration, reminding him of the possibilities that lay ahead and the steps he could take to bring them to fruition. Through self-reflection, Elias also learned the importance of self-compassion. He realized that growth wasn't a linear process and that setbacks and mistakes were inevitable. Instead of judging himself harshly, he began to approach these moments with kindness and curiosity. What could he learn from the experience? How could it contribute to his journey? This shift in mindset allowed him to navigate challenges with greater resilience and grace. Elias's practice of self-reflection culminated in a personal project he called the Growth Journal. It was a structured guide that combined prompts, exercises, and space for free writing, designed to help others explore their own journeys of self-discovery. He shared the journal with friends and clients, many of whom found it to be a valuable tool for gaining clarity and direction. The project became a way for Elias to share the lessons he had learned, creating a ripple effect that extended beyond his immediate circle. As Elias sat at his piano one evening, playing a melody that seemed to capture the essence of his reflections, he felt a profound sense of peace. The notes flowed with a sense of purpose and authenticity, each one a testament to the power of self-reflection. In that moment, he understood that his journey was not about reaching a final destination, but about embracing the process of becoming. The power of self-reflection had illuminated the path ahead, guiding Elias toward a deeper understanding of himself and his purpose. With each step, he felt more grounded, more intentional, and more connected to the values that shaped his life. And as he played the final chord, he smiled, ready to continue the journey with an open heart and a clear mind. Chapter 14. Finding Balance and Harmony. The quest for balance is one of life's universal struggles, a constant dance between competing priorities, desires, and obligations. For Elias, finding balance wasn't about achieving a perfect equilibrium, but about embracing the ebb and flow of life with intention and grace. This chapter of his journey was one of discovering harmony, not just between work and rest, but within himself. Elias's awareness of the need for balance began to take shape during a particularly hectic period in his life. His consultancy was thriving, with new clients and projects pouring in. While the success was exhilarating, it also came at a cost. Late nights and early mornings became the norm, leaving little time for personal pursuits or meaningful connections. Elias began to feel the strain, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. One evening, after a long day of back-to-back meetings, Elias sat at his piano, hoping to unwind. But as his fingers hovered over the keys, he realized that the music, once a source of joy and renewal, now felt like another task on an endless to-do list. The realization struck him deeply. In his pursuit of professional growth, he had neglected the very practices that nourished his spirit. Determined to make a change, Elias began exploring what balance meant to him. He started by reassessing his priorities, asking himself what truly mattered. The question wasn't just about how he spent his time, but about how he wanted to feel. He realized that balance wasn't about dividing his hours evenly between work and leisure. It was about creating a rhythm that allowed him to thrive. Elias's first step was setting boundaries around his work. He established clear start and end times for his days, resisting the temptation to answer emails late at night or squeeze in one more task. While the adjustment was challenging at first, it soon brought a sense of relief. With defined work hours, Elias found himself more focused and productive, knowing that his time was finite. The next step was reintroducing activities that brought him joy and connection. Elias made a commitment to play the piano regularly, not as a chore, but as a gift to himself. He also carved out time for walks in nature, a practice that reminded him of the beauty and simplicity of the world around him. These moments became anchors in his day, grounding him amidst the chaos and helping him reconnect with his inner self. Elias's journey toward balance also led him to reevaluate his relationships. He realized that in his pursuit of professional success, he had unintentionally drifted from friends and loved ones. Determined to rebuild those connections, he began reaching out, scheduling regular coffee dates and phone calls. These interactions, though simple, brought a sense of warmth and belonging that had been missing. One particularly meaningful moment came during a visit with his sister Mia. As they sat on her porch, watching the sunset, Elias shared his struggles and the changes he was making. "It's funny," he said, "I used to think balance was about doing everything perfectly. But now I'm learning it's about letting go of perfection and making space for what matters." Mia nodded, her expression thoughtful. "I think it's also about being kind to yourself," she said. "Life isn't a tightrope, it's more like a dance. Sometimes you lean one way, sometimes the other, but as long as you keep moving, you'll find your rhythm." Her words stayed with Elias, shaping his approach to balance as a dynamic, evolving process rather than a fixed state. This perspective allowed him to navigate the inevitable ups and downs of life with greater ease and adaptability. When work demands intensified, he made a conscious effort to prioritize rest and self-care. When personal challenges arose, he gave himself permission to step back and focus on what he needed most. As Elias continued to cultivate balance, he noticed a ripple effect in his work. His interactions with clients became more present and engaged, as he brought a renewed sense of energy and clarity to his sessions. He also began incorporating the theme of balance into his workshops, guiding participants to explore what harmony looked like in their own lives. These discussions often led to profound insights, as people recognized the ways in which imbalance had impacted their well-being and productivity. One participant, a young entrepreneur named Daniel, shared his struggle with burnout and the pressure to always be on. Through guided reflection, Daniel identified the areas of his life that brought him joy and fulfillment but had been pushed aside in favor of work. Inspired by Elias's story, he made a commitment to prioritize those areas, rediscovering a sense of purpose and vitality in the process. Elias's exploration of balance also deepened his appreciation for the interconnectedness of life. He began to see how each aspect of his existence, work, relationships, creativity, health, was part of a larger whole. When one area flourished, it often supported growth in others. Conversely, neglecting one aspect could create ripples of strain and disconnection. This holistic perspective reinforced the importance of tending to all parts of his life with care and intention. One evening, as Elias reflected on his journey, he felt a profound sense of gratitude for the lessons balance had taught him. The pursuit of harmony wasn't about avoiding challenges or striving for perfection. It was about embracing the complexities of life with an open heart and a willingness to adapt. It was about creating a rhythm that allowed him to dance through the uncertainties and joys of each day. Sitting at his piano, Elias played a melody that captured the essence of balance, a flowing interplay of light and shadow, tension and release. The notes blended seamlessly, each one contributing to the whole. As the music filled the room, Elias smiled, knowing that balance wasn't a destination but a practice, one that would continue to guide him on his journey. Chapter 15. Embracing Uncertainty. Uncertainty is often seen as a shadow that looms over the path of life, a source of doubt and fear that tempts people to cling to the familiar. For Elias, however, the realization that uncertainty could be a doorway to growth marked a profound turning point in his journey. Learning to embrace the unknown became not just a necessity, but a practice of trust, resilience, and discovery. The lesson began when an unexpected opportunity presented itself. Elias received an invitation to speak at a global leadership summit, an event that would place him alongside some of the most influential thinkers in his field. The invitation was an honor, but it also filled him with apprehension. The summit's scale and prestige were unlike anything he had encountered before, and the idea of addressing such an audience felt overwhelming. Elias found himself at a crossroads. He could decline the invitation and remain within the comfort of his established work, or he could take a leap of faith into uncharted territory. As he deliberated, he reflected on the moments in his life when stepping into the unknown had led to transformative growth. Each of those experiences had begun with a choice to trust in his ability to adapt and learn. With this in mind, Elias accepted the invitation, determined to approach the challenge with an open heart. The weeks leading up to the summit were a whirlwind of preparation. He spent hours crafting his presentation, practicing his delivery, and researching his audience. Yet, no matter how prepared he felt, a lingering sense of uncertainty remained. On the day of the summit, as Elias stood backstage waiting to be introduced, he took a deep breath and reminded himself of a simple truth. Uncertainty was not an obstacle to be overcome, but a space to be explored. By reframing his perspective, he shifted his focus from fear to curiosity, from what could go wrong to what could be discovered. As Elias stepped onto the stage and began to speak, he felt the familiar tension of nerves and excitement. But as he connected with the audience, sharing his journey and insights, a sense of ease began to settle over him. The uncertainty that had once felt daunting became a source of energy, propelling him to engage authentically and adapt in the moment. By the time he finished, the applause was thunderous, a testament to the power of embracing the unknown. The experience of the summit reinforced Elias's belief in the value of uncertainty as a teacher. It was a reminder that growth often came not from knowing all the answers, but from being willing to ask the questions and take the steps forward without assurance of the outcome. This mindset began to influence how Elias approached other aspects of his life, from his personal relationships to his creative pursuits. One evening, while working on a new piece of music, Elias decided to experiment with improvisation. Instead of following a predetermined structure, he allowed himself to explore freely, letting the melody unfold without expectation. The result was a composition that surprised even him, a testament to the beauty that could emerge from surrendering control. The experience mirrored the lessons he was learning about uncertainty, that it was often in the unplanned moments where the most profound discoveries were made. Elias's journey also led him to explore the concept of uncertainty with his clients and colleagues. During a workshop on resilience, he introduced an exercise that challenged participants to embrace ambiguity. They were given a set of abstract shapes and asked to collaborate on creating a cohesive design without instructions or guidelines. The process was initially met with hesitation and frustration, but as the group engaged with the task, they began to find joy in the creative possibilities. By the end, the participants not only produced a striking piece of art, but also gained a deeper appreciation for the value of flexibility and openness. Through these experiences, Elias discovered that embracing uncertainty required a balance of preparation and surrender. It wasn't about abandoning structure or diving headfirst into chaos. It was about cultivating the ability to navigate the unknown with intention and trust. This balance became a cornerstone of his philosophy, shaping how he approached both challenges and opportunities. One of the most profound moments in Elias's journey came during a conversation with a mentor who had been a guiding presence in his life. The mentor shared a piece of wisdom that resonated deeply. Uncertainty is where life happens. It's where you discover not just what you're capable of, but who you are. The words stayed with Elias, becoming a mantra that guided him through the twists and turns of his path. Each time he encountered uncertainty, he reminded himself that it was an invitation to grow, to explore, and to trust in the process. This mindset didn't eliminate fear or doubt, but it gave him the courage to move forward despite them. As Elias reflected on his journey, he began to see uncertainty not as a void, but as a canvas, a space where possibilities could take shape. It was in the moments of not knowing that he found the freedom to imagine, create, and connect. The more he leaned into this space, the more he discovered about himself and the world around him. Sitting at his piano one evening, Elias played a melody that seemed to capture the essence of uncertainty. The notes were fluid and unpredictable, shifting between tension and resolution, light and shadow. As the music filled the room, he felt a deep sense of peace, knowing that the unknown was not something to fear, but something to embrace. Uncertainty, Elias realized, was not the absence of direction, but the presence of potential. It was the space where dreams took root, where growth became possible, and where the journey unfolded in its most authentic form. With this understanding, he felt ready to face whatever lay ahead, trusting that each step into the unknown would bring him closer to the person he was meant to become. Chapter 16: The Art of Adaptability. Adaptability, Elias discovered, was not merely a skill, but an art, a dynamic interplay of resilience, creativity, and openness to change. Life's unpredictability often demanded more than just enduring the unexpected. It required embracing it, transforming challenges into opportunities, and thriving amidst uncertainty. This chapter of his journey became a masterclass in learning to bend without breaking, in finding strength and flexibility. The lessons in adaptability began to take shape when Elias was approached with a unique opportunity. A former client, now a leader at a global nonprofit organization, invited him to design and implement a leadership development program for their rapidly growing teams. The scope of the project was ambitious, involving diverse groups spread across multiple countries, each with its own cultural and logistical complexities. It was unlike anything Elias had undertaken before, and while he was excited by the challenge, he was also keenly aware of the hurdles ahead. The project began with extensive planning, as Elias worked to understand the needs and dynamics of each team. Yet, despite his thorough preparation, unforeseen challenges quickly arose. Language barriers complicated communication, logistical delays disrupted timelines, and differing cultural norms sometimes created misunderstandings. These obstacles, while daunting, also presented Elias with an opportunity to test the adaptability he had been cultivating. Rather than resisting the challenges, Elias leaned into them, approaching each hurdle as an opportunity to learn and innovate. He adopted a mindset of curiosity, seeking to understand the perspectives and needs of the individuals and teams he was working with. This approach not only helped him navigate the complexities of the project, but also deepened his connections with the participants, fostering trust and collaboration. One memorable moment occurred during a workshop in South America. The session was designed to focus on team dynamics, but partway through, a power outage left the group without access to their materials and technology. Initially, the disruption caused frustration and uncertainty among the participants. Sensing the need to adapt, Elias encouraged the group to pivot, using the time to engage in open dialogue and storytelling. The impromptu activity sparked meaningful conversations and strengthened the group's sense of connection, turning what could have been a setback into a breakthrough moment. This experience reinforced a key lesson for Elias. Adaptability was as much about attitude as it was about action. By maintaining a sense of openness and creativity, he could transform even the most challenging situations into opportunities for growth. This mindset became a cornerstone of his work, shaping how he approached not only his projects, but also his personal journey. Elias's exploration of adaptability extended beyond his professional life. In his personal pursuits, he began experimenting with new approaches to his creative endeavors. At the piano, he challenged himself to explore unfamiliar genres and techniques, allowing the music to flow freely without preconceived expectations. This willingness to embrace the unknown brought a renewed sense of joy and discovery to his playing, reminding him of the beauty that emerged from stepping outside his comfort zone. Adaptability also played a pivotal role in Elias's relationships. As he navigated the complexities of connecting with people from different backgrounds and perspectives, he learned the importance of active listening and empathy. By approaching interactions with an open mind, he was able to build bridges and find common ground, even in situations where differences initially seemed insurmountable. One evening, during a dinner with friends, Elias shared a story about a difficult negotiation he had recently facilitated. The discussion had been tense, with conflicting priorities threatening to derail the process. However, by remaining flexible and encouraging the group to explore alternative solutions, Elias had helped them reach a compromise that satisfied everyone involved. His friends were impressed by his ability to adapt under pressure, and the conversation highlighted the value of adaptability not just in professional settings, but in everyday life. Elias's journey of adaptability also led him to reflect on the broader implications of change and resilience. He began incorporating these themes into his workshops, guiding participants to explore how adaptability could enhance their own lives. Through exercises and discussions, he encouraged them to identify areas where rigidity had held them back and to experiment with more flexible approaches. These sessions often led to profound insights, as individuals discovered new ways to navigate challenges and seize opportunities. One participant, a teacher named Clara, shared how her resistance to change had affected her classroom dynamics. Inspired by Elias's workshop, she decided to experiment with more interactive teaching methods, allowing her students greater autonomy and input. The results were transformative, fostering a more engaged and collaborative learning environment. Clara's story became a testament to the power of adaptability to drive positive change. As Elias continued to explore the art of adaptability, he found that it required a balance of preparation and spontaneity. While planning and foresight were important, so too was the ability to pivot and adjust in the face of unexpected circumstances. This balance became a guiding principle, helping him navigate the complexities of his journey with confidence and grace. One evening, as Elias sat at his piano, he reflected on the many ways adaptability had shaped his life. The notes he played seemed to mirror the rhythm of his journey, shifting between structure and improvisation, tension and resolution. The music reminded him that adaptability was not about abandoning direction, but about embracing the fluidity of the path. As the final chord echoed through the room, Elias smiled, feeling a deep sense of gratitude for the lessons adaptability had taught him. The ability to bend without breaking, to find strength and flexibility, had not only carried him through challenges, but also opened doors to growth and discovery. With this understanding, he felt ready to face whatever lay ahead, trusting in his ability to navigate the ever-changing landscape of life. Chapter 17. Courage and Vulnerability. For much of his life, Elias equated vulnerability with weakness, a door left ajar for pain or failure to slip through. Yet, as his journey unfolded, he began to realize that vulnerability was not a flaw to conceal, but a strength to embrace. It was through vulnerability that he found deeper connections, greater courage, and a renewed understanding of his own humanity. The turning point came during a conversation with Mia, his sister, who had always been a steady source of support. Over a quiet dinner one evening, Mia shared a deeply personal struggle she had been facing, one she had hidden even from Elias. As she spoke, her voice trembled with emotion, but there was also a quiet strength in her honesty. Elias listened intently, moved not only by her story, but by the courage it took to share it. "I've learned that being vulnerable isn't about being perfect," Mia said. "It's about being real. And sometimes that's the bravest thing we can do." Her words stayed with Elias long after their conversation ended. He began to reflect on his own reluctance to be vulnerable, on the walls he had built to protect himself from rejection, judgment, or disappointment. While those walls had provided a sense of security, they had also kept him isolated, preventing him from fully experiencing the depth and richness of his relationships. Determined to embrace vulnerability, Elias started small. He began by sharing his thoughts and feelings more openly with close friends and colleagues, allowing himself to be seen in moments of uncertainty or doubt. These acts of honesty, though uncomfortable at first, brought a surprising sense of relief. Instead of diminishing him, vulnerability deepened his connections and invited others to share their own truths. One of the most profound moments of vulnerability came during a workshop Elias was leading on leadership and resilience. As he addressed the group, he decided to deviate from his prepared script and share a personal story about a failure that had deeply affected him. He spoke candidly about the doubts and fears he had faced, the lessons he had learned, and the growth that had emerged from the experience. The room fell silent as Elias spoke, his words resonating with the group in a way that no polished presentation ever could. When he finished, one participant raised her hand and said, "Thank you for sharing that. It's comforting to know that even someone as accomplished as you has faced challenges. It gives me hope that I can overcome mine." Elias left the workshop with a renewed appreciation for the power of vulnerability. By sharing his story, he had not only connected with the participants on a deeper level, but had also created a space where others felt safe to share their own experiences. It was a reminder that vulnerability was not a sign of weakness, but a bridge to understanding and empathy. As Elias continued to explore the role of vulnerability in his life, he encountered moments that tested his resolve. One such moment came during a difficult conversation with a longtime friend. They had drifted apart over the years, their interactions growing increasingly surface level and strained. Determined to address the distance, Elias reached out and expressed his feelings honestly, acknowledging his own role in the disconnect. The conversation was not easy. There were moments of discomfort and misunderstanding, but there were also moments of clarity and healing. By choosing vulnerability, Elias was able to rebuild a relationship that might otherwise have faded away. The experience reinforced his belief that vulnerability, though risky, was often worth the effort. Elias's journey into vulnerability also deepened his understanding of himself. Through journaling and reflection, he began to uncover the fears and insecurities that had driven his reluctance to open up. He realized that much of his resistance stemmed from a fear of being judged or rejected, a fear that had shaped many of his choices. By acknowledging these fears, he was able to confront them with compassion and courage. This self-awareness brought a sense of liberation. Elias no longer felt the need to project an image of perfection or control. Instead, he embraced the messiness of his humanity, allowing himself to make mistakes, ask for help, and admit when he didn't have all the answers. This shift not only eased the pressure he placed on himself, but also inspired those around him to do the same. One evening, as Elias played a new melody on his piano, he found himself reflecting on the parallels between music and vulnerability. Just as a melody's beauty lay in its interplay of tension and release, vulnerability brought depth and richness to life. It was the willingness to lean into the uncertain, to expose the raw edges, that made the journey meaningful. Elias's exploration of vulnerability extended to his work, where he encouraged clients and colleagues to embrace their own imperfections and uncertainties. During a team-building session, he introduced an exercise where participants shared a challenge they were currently facing and the emotions tied to it. The activity fostered a sense of trust and solidarity, reminding the group that vulnerability was not a liability, but a strength that brought people closer together. As Elias reflected on his journey, he felt a profound sense of gratitude for the lessons vulnerability had taught him. It had shown him that courage was not the absence of fear, but the willingness to move forward despite it. It had reminded him that authenticity, not perfection, was the foundation of meaningful connection. And it had taught him that being vulnerable was not about exposing weakness, but about embracing the full spectrum of his humanity. Sitting at his piano, Elias played a melody that seemed to capture the essence of vulnerability, a delicate balance of strength and fragility, light and shadow. As the final notes faded into the silence, he smiled, knowing that the journey of vulnerability was far from over. With each step, he was learning to live with greater courage, authenticity, and grace, trusting that the beauty of life lay not in its certainties but in its complexities. Chapter 18. Unlocking Potential. Potential is a word that holds infinite promise, yet it often feels elusive, buried beneath layers of self-doubt, fear, and hesitation. For Elias, the journey to unlocking his potential was not a sudden revelation, but a gradual process of self-discovery, experimentation, and growth. It was about learning to trust in his abilities, push beyond his comfort zones, and embrace the limitless possibilities that lay before him. The turning point came during a conversation with his mentor, Alan, who had been a guiding presence throughout Elias's professional and personal journey. Over a cup of coffee in a bustling cafe, Alan posed a simple yet profound question. Elias, what would you attempt if you knew you couldn't fail? The question stopped Elias in his tracks. He had spent so much time focusing on what was safe, what was practical, that he had rarely allowed himself to dream without limitations. As he pondered Alan's question, a flood of ideas and aspirations came to mind, ideas he had dismissed as unrealistic or unattainable. The realization sparked a fire within him, a determination to explore the full scope of his potential. Elias began by revisiting his goals and aspirations, taking the time to reflect on what truly mattered to him. He asked himself questions that challenged his assumptions and pushed him to think beyond his current reality. What skills had he yet to develop? What passions had he neglected? What impact did he want to make in the world? These reflections became the foundation for a new chapter of growth. One of the first steps Elias took was to enroll in a public speaking course. While he had always been an effective communicator, he knew there was room to enhance his ability to inspire and connect with audiences. The course was challenging, pushing him to step outside his comfort zone and confront his fears of vulnerability and imperfection. Yet, with each practice session and constructive critique, Elias felt his confidence grow. By the end of the course, he was delivering speeches that not only conveyed information but also moved and motivated his listeners. This newfound confidence in his speaking abilities opened doors to opportunities Elias had never imagined. He was invited to deliver a keynote address at a regional leadership conference, an experience that both terrified and exhilarated him. As he stood on the stage, addressing an audience of hundreds, Elias felt a profound sense of purpose. The response to his speech was overwhelming, with attendees sharing how his words had inspired them to pursue their own potential. The experience reinforced Elias's belief in the power of stepping into the unknown. Elias's journey also involved embracing the idea of lifelong learning. He began exploring new fields of knowledge and skill, from digital marketing to creative writing. Each new pursuit brought its own set of challenges and rewards, reminding him that potential was not a fixed destination, but an ever-expanding horizon. By continuously seeking growth, Elias found himself discovering talents and passions he had never known existed. One particularly transformative experience came when Elias decided to take up painting, an art form he had always admired but never attempted. Guided by a local artist, he spent hours experimenting with colors, textures, and techniques. The process was messy and imperfect, but it was also deeply fulfilling. Through painting, Elias learned to embrace the beauty of imperfection and the joy of creative expression. His work, though far from professional, became a source of pride and a reminder of his capacity to grow and evolve. Unlocking his potential also required Elias to confront the inner barriers that had held him back. Through journaling and introspection, he began to identify the fears and beliefs that had limited his progress. He realized that much of his hesitation stemmed from a fear of failure and judgment, fears that had often paralyzed him in the past. By acknowledging these fears and challenging their validity, Elias was able to reclaim his power and move forward with greater courage. One of the most valuable lessons Elias learned was the importance of surrounding himself with people who believed in his potential. He sought out mentors, peers, and friends who encouraged him to aim higher and supported him in his pursuits. Their belief in him became a source of strength, reminding him that he was capable of more than he sometimes gave himself credit for. Elias also made a conscious effort to foster this same belief in others. Whether through his workshops, personal conversations, or everyday interactions, he encouraged those around him to recognize and embrace their own potential. He shared his journey openly, emphasizing that the path to growth was not about perfection, but about persistence and willingness to take risks. One evening, during a group session with a team he was coaching, Elias introduced an exercise called the vision statement. Participants were asked to write a letter to their future selves, imagining what their lives would look like if they fully realized their potential. The exercise sparked a wave of creativity and self-reflection, with participants sharing aspirations that range from professional achievements to personal transformations. The session was a powerful reminder that potential was not just about individual growth, but about the collective energy and inspiration that emerged when people dared to dream together. As Elias reflected on his journey, he realized that unlocking potential was not about achieving a specific milestone, but about cultivating a mindset of possibility. It was about approaching life with curiosity and courage, about seeing challenges as opportunities to learn and grow. It was about believing in the power of small steps, knowing that each one brought him closer to his aspirations. Sitting at his piano one evening, Elias played a melody that seemed to capture the essence of potential, a rising, expansive sequence of notes that hinted at boundless possibilities. The music filled the room with a sense of hope and anticipation, a reminder of the journey that lay ahead. As the final notes faded into the silence, Elias smiled, feeling a deep sense of gratitude for the lessons he had learned. Unlocking potential was not a destination, but a way of being, a commitment to continuous growth and exploration. With this understanding, he felt ready to embrace whatever challenges and opportunities awaited, trusting in his ability to rise to the occasion and discover new dimensions of himself. Chapter 18. Unlocking Potential. Potential is a word that holds infinite promise, yet it often feels elusive, buried beneath layers of self-doubt, fear, and hesitation. For Elias, the journey to unlocking his potential was not a sudden revelation, but a gradual process of self-discovery, experimentation, and growth. It was about learning to trust in his abilities, push beyond his comfort zones, and embrace the limitless possibilities that lay before him. The turning point came during a conversation with his mentor, Alan, who had been a guiding presence throughout Elias's professional and personal journey. Over a cup of coffee in a bustling cafe, Alan posed a simple yet profound question. Elias, what would you attempt if you knew you couldn't fail? The question stopped Elias in his tracks. He had spent so much time focusing on what was safe, what was practical, that he had rarely allowed himself to dream without limitations. As he pondered Alan's question, a flood of ideas and aspirations came to mind, ideas he had dismissed as unrealistic or unattainable. The realization sparked a fire within him, a determination to explore the full scope of his potential. Elias began by revisiting his goals and aspirations, taking the time to reflect on what truly mattered to him. He asked himself questions that challenged his assumptions and pushed him to think beyond his current reality. What skills had he yet to develop? What passions had he neglected? What impact did he want to make in the world? These reflections became the foundation for a new chapter of growth. One of the first steps Elias took was to enroll in a public speaking course. While he had always been an effective communicator, he knew there was room to enhance his ability to inspire and connect with audiences. The course was challenging, pushing him to step outside his comfort zone and confront his fears of vulnerability and imperfection. Yet, with each practice session and constructive critique, Elias felt his confidence grow. By the end of the course, he was delivering speeches that not only conveyed information, but also moved and motivated his listeners. This newfound confidence in his speaking abilities opened doors to opportunities Elias had never imagined. He was invited to deliver a keynote address at a regional leadership conference, an experience that both terrified and exhilarated him. As he stood on the stage, addressing an audience of hundreds, Elias felt a profound sense of purpose. The response to his speech was overwhelming, with attendees sharing how his words had inspired them to pursue their own potential. The experience reinforced Elias's belief in the power of stepping into the unknown. Elias's journey also involved embracing the idea of lifelong learning. He began exploring new fields of knowledge and skill, from digital marketing to creative writing. Each new pursuit brought its own set of challenges and rewards, reminding him that potential was not a fixed destination, but an ever-expanding horizon. By continuously seeking growth, Elias found himself discovering talents and passions he had never known existed. One particularly transformative experience came when Elias decided to take up painting, an art form he had always admired but never attempted. Guided by a local artist, he spent hours experimenting with colors, textures, and techniques. The process was messy and imperfect, but it was also deeply fulfilling. Through painting, Elias learned to embrace the beauty of imperfection and the joy of creative expression. His work, though far from professional, became a source of pride and a reminder of his capacity to grow and evolve. Unlocking his potential also required Elias to confront the inner barriers that had held him back. Through journaling and introspection, he began to identify the fears and beliefs that had limited his progress. He realized that much of his hesitation stemmed from a fear of failure and judgment, fears that had often paralyzed him in the past. By acknowledging these fears and challenging their validity, Elias was able to reclaim his power and move forward with greater courage. One of the most valuable lessons Elias learned was the importance of surrounding himself with people who believed in his potential. He sought out mentors, peers, and friends who encouraged him to aim higher and supported him in his pursuits. Their belief in him became a source of strength, reminding him that he was capable of more than he sometimes gave himself credit for. Elias also made a conscious effort to foster this same belief in others. Whether through his workshops, personal conversations, or everyday interactions, he encouraged those around him to recognize and embrace their own potential. He shared his journey openly, emphasizing that the path to growth was not about perfection, but about persistence and willingness to take risks. One evening, during a group session with a team he was coaching, Elias introduced an exercise called the vision statement. Participants were asked to write a letter to their future selves, imagining what their lives would look like if they fully realized their potential. The exercise sparked a wave of creativity and self-reflection, with participants sharing aspirations that ranged from professional achievements to personal transformations. The session was a powerful reminder that potential was not just about individual growth, but about the collective energy and inspiration that emerged when people dared to dream together. As Elias reflected on his journey, he realized that unlocking potential was not about achieving a specific milestone, but about cultivating a mindset of possibility. It was about approaching life with curiosity and courage, about seeing challenges as opportunities to learn and grow. It was about believing in the power of small steps, knowing that each one brought him closer to his aspirations. Sitting at his piano one evening, Elias played a melody that seemed to capture the essence of potential, a rising, expansive sequence of notes that hinted at boundless possibilities. The music filled the room with a sense of hope and anticipation, a reminder of the journey that lay ahead. As the final notes faded into the silence, Elias smiled, feeling a deep sense of gratitude for the lessons he had learned. Unlocking potential was not a destination, but a way of being, a commitment to continuous growth and exploration. With this understanding, he felt ready to embrace whatever challenges and opportunities awaited, trusting in his ability to rise to the occasion and discover new dimensions of himself. Chapter 19. The Power of Gratitude. Gratitude, Elias discovered, was more than a fleeting emotion or a polite response. It was a practice, a perspective, and a transformative force that could reshape the way he viewed the world. As he continued his journey of growth and self-discovery, gratitude emerged as a cornerstone of his philosophy, a guiding principle that illuminated the path forward. The realization came during a particularly challenging period. Elias had been juggling multiple commitments, from his professional projects to personal aspirations, and the weight of it all had begun to take its toll. One evening, feeling overwhelmed and disconnected, he found himself scrolling through old photos on his phone. Each image brought back memories of moments that had shaped him: a family gathering, a successful workshop, a quiet sunset by the lake. As he lingered on these memories, a sense of warmth and appreciation washed over him. He realized that even amidst the chaos and challenges, his life was filled with blessings, both big and small. This moment of reflection marked the beginning of a new chapter, one in which gratitude became an intentional practice. Elias started by keeping a gratitude journal, a simple yet profound exercise that encouraged him to focus on the positive aspects of his life. Each evening, he wrote down 3 things he was grateful for, ranging from significant achievements to small, everyday joys. At first, the practice felt forced, as if he were grasping for things to appreciate. But over time, it became second nature, a lens through which he began to view his experiences. The impact was immediate and far-reaching. Gratitude shifted Elias's focus from what was lacking to what was abundant. It reminded him to celebrate progress rather than fixate on perfection, to value connections over outcomes. This shift not only improved his outlook, but also enhanced his relationships, as he began to express his appreciation more openly to those around him. One of the most profound moments of gratitude came during a reunion with his old friend, Daniel. They hadn't seen each other in years, their lives having taken them in different directions. Over dinner, Elias shared how much Daniel's support during a difficult time had meant to him. Daniel, visibly moved, responded by expressing his own appreciation for Elias's encouragement and guidance over the years. The conversation deepened their bond, a reminder of the reciprocal nature of gratitude. Elias also began incorporating gratitude into his professional life. During workshops and team-building sessions, he introduced exercises that encouraged participants to reflect on and express their appreciation for one another. One such exercise, called Gratitude Circles, involved team members sharing specific instances where a colleague's actions had made a positive impact. The activity often sparked moments of connection and recognition, transforming the dynamics of the group. One participant, a reserved manager named Priya, shared how her team's expressions of gratitude had shifted her perspective. "I never realized how much my efforts were valued," she said. "Hearing it directly from my team has not only boosted my confidence, but also strengthened my commitment to them." Elias's practice of gratitude also extended to his creative pursuits. Whether composing a new piece of music or writing in his journal, he approached each endeavor with a sense of appreciation for the opportunity to create and express himself. This mindset infused his work with a deeper sense of purpose and joy, reminding him of the privilege it was to share his gifts with the world. Gratitude, Elias found, was not about ignoring challenges or pretending everything was perfect. It was about acknowledging the full spectrum of life's experiences and finding value in them. Even in moments of difficulty, there were lessons to be learned, connections to be deepened, and growth to be achieved. This perspective allowed him to navigate setbacks with resilience and grace, viewing them as opportunities rather than obstacles. One particularly challenging project tested Elias's ability to maintain a gratitude mindset. A series of logistical issues and miscommunications threatened to derail a major initiative he was leading. Frustrated and disheartened, Elias took a step back to reflect. He reminded himself of the supportive team working alongside him, the progress they had already made, and the lessons he could take from the experience. This shift in focus not only helped him regain his composure, but also inspired creative solutions that ultimately led to the project's success. As Elias continued to embrace gratitude, he noticed its ripple effect on those around him. Friends and colleagues often remarked on his positive energy and ability to find silver linings, even in challenging situations. Inspired by his example, many began adopting gratitude practices of their own, creating a network of positivity and mutual support. One evening, as Elias sat at his piano, He composed a piece inspired by the theme of gratitude. The melody was warm and uplifting, a reflection of the joy and appreciation that had become central to his journey. Each note felt like an expression of thanks to the people who had supported him, to the experiences that had shaped him, and to the possibilities that lay ahead. As the final chord resonated through the room, Elias felt a deep sense of peace. Gratitude, he realized, was not just a feeling but a way of being, a practice that enriched every aspect of his life. It was a reminder to cherish the present, to celebrate progress, and to approach each day with an open heart. With this understanding, Elias felt ready to continue his journey, knowing that gratitude would be his guide. It was not about waiting for perfect moments to be thankful, but about finding the beauty in each moment, no matter how ordinary or extraordinary it seemed. In doing so, he unlocked a wellspring of joy and resilience that would carry him forward, one grateful step at a time. Chapter 20: Resilience in Adversity. Resilience is the quiet strength that allows individuals to rise after a fall, to face challenges head-on, and to adapt to the unpredictable nature of life. For Elias, resilience had always been an abstract concept, something admired in others but rarely tested in his own experience. However, when adversity struck unexpectedly, he found himself forced to draw upon an inner well of strength he hadn't known he possessed. This chapter of his journey became a testament to the power of resilience to transform struggle into growth. It began with a phone call that shattered Elias's sense of stability. A critical project he had been working on for months had encountered a major setback. Miscommunications between stakeholders and unforeseen complications had led to delays, dissatisfied clients, and escalating costs. For Elias, who prided himself on delivering excellence, the situation felt like a personal failure. In the immediate aftermath, Elias was consumed by frustration and self-doubt. He questioned his abilities and replayed the events that had led to the setback, searching for what he could have done differently. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily on him, threatening to overshadow the progress he had made in other areas of his life. Yet, amidst the turmoil, a quiet determination began to take root. Elias realized that while he couldn't change the past, he could choose how to respond to the present. The first step in rebuilding his confidence was reaching out to his mentor, Alan. Over a candid conversation, Alan offered perspective and guidance. "Setbacks are inevitable, Elias," he said. "What matters is not that they happen, but how you choose to grow from them. Resilience isn't about avoiding adversity. It's about using it as a stepping stone to something greater." Inspired by Alan's words, Elias began to approach the situation with a mindset of curiosity and problem-solving. He gathered his team for a series of open and honest discussions, encouraging them to share their insights and ideas without fear of blame. Together, they identified the root causes of the setback and developed a plan to address them. The process was challenging, requiring humility, collaboration, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. Yet, it also brought the team closer together, fostering a sense of trust and unity. As Elias worked to resolve the issues, he also made a conscious effort to prioritize self-care and maintain perspective. He resumed his evening walks in the park, finding solace in the rhythm of his footsteps and the beauty of the natural world. He returned to his piano, allowing the music to express the emotions he couldn't put into words. These moments of reflection and renewal reminded him that resilience wasn't just about action. It was also about allowing space for rest and recovery. One of the most valuable lessons Elias learned during this time was the importance of reframing challenges as opportunities. Instead of viewing the setback as a failure, he began to see it as a chance to strengthen his skills, improve his processes, and deepen his resilience. This shift in perspective not only eased his stress, but also fueled his determination to move forward with greater clarity and purpose. Elias's journey through adversity also revealed the strength of his support network. Friends, colleagues, and mentors rallied around him, offering encouragement, advice, and practical assistance. Their belief in his ability to overcome the challenges reminded Elias of the power of community and the importance of seeking help when needed. In turn, he made an effort to support others who were facing their own struggles, recognizing that resilience was a collective effort as much as an individual one. As the months passed, Elias and his team successfully turned the project around. The lessons they had learned along the way not only resolved the immediate issues, but also laid the foundation for long-term improvements. Clients who had once expressed dissatisfaction became some of the project's strongest advocates, praising the transparency, dedication, and creativity that had brought the initiative to fruition. Reflecting on the experience, Elias felt a profound sense of gratitude for the adversity he had faced. It had pushed him to grow in ways he hadn't anticipated, revealing strengths and capacities that might otherwise have remained dormant. It had also deepened his understanding of resilience as a practice, one that required not just endurance but adaptability, perspective, and connection. Elias's exploration of resilience extended beyond his professional life. In his personal relationships, he found himself more patient and empathetic, recognizing that everyone faced their own challenges and carried their own burdens. He began to share his journey more openly, using his experiences to inspire and support those around him. Whether through a heartfelt conversation with a friend or a story shared during a workshop, Elias's vulnerability and authenticity became a source of strength for others. One evening, as Elias played a new composition on his piano, he reflected on the parallels between resilience and music. Just as a melody could weave tension and resolution into something beautiful, resilience allowed life's challenges and triumphs to coexist in harmony. The notes he played were a testament to the journey he had undertaken, a reminder of the strength that came from embracing both the highs and lows. As the final chords faded into the silence, Elias smiled, feeling a deep sense of peace. Resilience, he realized, was not about avoiding hardship, but about meeting it with courage, curiosity, and grace. It was about rising after every fall, learning from every setback, and continuing to move forward with an open heart. With this understanding, Elias felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that each one held the potential for growth and transformation. Resilience had become not just a tool, but a way of being, a guiding force that would carry him through the uncertainties of life and toward the endless possibilities that awaited. Chapter 21. The Power of Intentionality. As Elias continued his journey, he began to understand that living with intentionality was one of the most profound ways to shape a meaningful and fulfilling life. Intentionality was more than just making plans or setting goals. It was about aligning every thought, decision, and action with his core values and purpose. It was about living each day with a sense of clarity and direction, no matter how chaotic or uncertain the external world might be. The realization came to Elias during a quiet morning in his study. His desk was cluttered with notes, to-do lists, and half-finished projects, a physical representation of his scattered energy. Though he had accomplished much in recent months, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was simply going through the motions, chasing productivity without truly connecting to his deeper purpose. He longed for a sense of alignment, a way to focus his efforts on what truly mattered. Determined to make a change, Elias decided to step back and reflect. He began by revisiting the values and aspirations that had guided him throughout his journey. What did he want his life to stand for? What kind of impact did he hope to have on others? What brought him joy, fulfillment, and a sense of meaning? These questions became the foundation for a new chapter of intentional living. Elias's first step was to create a vision statement, a concise and inspiring declaration of his purpose and priorities. After days of contemplation and revisions, he settled on the following: to inspire growth, foster connection, and create beauty in the world through authenticity and curiosity. This statement became a compass, guiding his decisions and reminding him of what he wanted to achieve. With his vision in place, Elias turned his attention to his daily habits and routines. He realized that many of his actions were driven by habit or external expectations rather than intentional choice. To change this, he began practicing mindfulness, paying closer attention to how he spent his time and energy. Each morning, he asked himself, "What do I want to accomplish today? How can I align my actions with my values?" These simple questions helped him approach each day with purpose and focus. Elias also made a commitment to simplify his life, letting go of activities and obligations that no longer served him. He decluttered his schedule, prioritizing quality over quantity in both his work and personal life. This process was not without its challenges. Saying no to opportunities and requests sometimes felt uncomfortable. Yet, with each decision, Elias felt a growing sense of freedom and alignment, as if he were carving out space for what truly mattered. One of the most significant changes Elias made was in how he approached his relationships. Instead of letting them drift on autopilot, he became more intentional about nurturing meaningful connections. He set aside dedicated time for family and friends, engaging in deep conversations and shared experiences. He also made an effort to express his appreciation and gratitude more frequently, strengthening the bonds that had been instrumental in his journey. One evening, as Elias hosted a small gathering of close friends, he introduced an activity that had become a personal favorite: the Circle of Intentions. Each person was invited to share one intention they wanted to bring into their lives, along with the reason it mattered to them. The exercise sparked a wave of vulnerability and connection, as the group encouraged and supported one another in their aspirations. For Elias, it was a powerful reminder of the beauty that emerged when people came together with shared purpose. Intentionality also transformed how Elias approached his work. Rather than taking on projects out of obligation or fear of missing out, he began evaluating opportunities based on their alignment with his vision. This shift allowed him to focus on initiatives that resonated with his values and passions, leading to deeper engagement and more impactful outcomes. One such project was a mentorship program for aspiring leaders, which combined Elias's love for teaching with his commitment to fostering growth in others. Elias's practice of intentionality extended to his creative pursuits as well. At the piano, he experimented with composing pieces that reflected his journey, infusing each note with emotion and meaning. In his writing, he explored themes of authenticity, resilience, and transformation, sharing stories that inspired others to reflect on their own paths. These acts of creation became a source of joy and fulfillment, reminding Elias of the power of living with purpose. As Elias embraced intentionality, he noticed its ripple effect on his well-being. He felt more present and connected in his daily life, less consumed by stress and distraction. His energy, once scattered, became focused and purposeful, allowing him to make steady progress toward his goals. Even setbacks and challenges took on a different light, as he viewed them as opportunities to realign and grow. One particularly challenging moment tested Elias's commitment to intentionality. A close friend, struggling with their own doubts and fears, turned to Elias for guidance. As they spoke, Elias resisted the urge to offer quick solutions or advice. Instead, he listened deeply, asking thoughtful questions that encouraged his friend to reflect on their own intentions. The conversation reminded Elias that intentionality was not just about his own journey, but about supporting others in theirs. Elias's exploration of intentional living also led him to revisit the role of gratitude in his life. He found that expressing appreciation for the present moment was a powerful way to stay grounded and focused. Whether savoring a quiet morning with his journal or celebrating a small victory, Elias approached each experience with a sense of wonder and gratitude. These moments of mindfulness deepened his connection to his purpose, reinforcing the importance of living with intention. One evening, as Elias sat at his piano, he composed a melody that felt like an expression of his journey. The notes were deliberate yet flowing, a balance of structure and spontaneity that mirrored the art of intentionality. As the music filled the room, Elias felt a profound sense of peace, knowing that each choice he made was bringing him closer to the life he envisioned. Living with intentionality, Elias realized, was not about controlling every aspect of his life, but about aligning his actions with his values and purpose. It was about making choices that reflected who he wanted to be, even in the face of uncertainty and change. With this understanding, he felt ready to continue his journey, knowing that intentionality would be his guide, lighting the way toward a life of meaning, connection, and fulfillment. Chapter 22: Strength in Connection. Connection, Elias had come to learn, was one of life's most profound gifts. It was through the bonds he shared with others that he found support in moments of doubt, joy in times of triumph, and purpose in the quiet in-betweens. Yet, the true depth of connection revealed itself not merely in shared laughter or conversation, but in the strength it provided during life's most challenging moments. This realization began to take shape during a pivotal event in Elias's journey. He had been invited to lead a multi-day retreat for leaders across diverse industries, a gathering designed to foster collaboration, innovation, and personal growth. Though Elias had facilitated countless workshops and seminars, the scope and complexity of this retreat presented unique challenges. Participants came from varied backgrounds, each bringing their own perspectives, goals, and apprehensions. Creating a space where they could connect authentically felt both exhilarating and daunting. From the outset, Elias emphasized the importance of connection as the foundation for the retreat. He began with an exercise he called the Circle of Stories, where each participant shared a pivotal moment from their lives that had shaped who they were. The stories ranged from tales of perseverance and loss to moments of unexpected joy and discovery. As the group listened, a sense of vulnerability and trust began to emerge, breaking down the walls that often separated people in professional settings. Elias observed the profound impact this exercise had on the group. People who had initially seemed reserved or guarded began to open up, finding common ground in their shared humanity. By the end of the first day, the participants were no longer a collection of strangers, but a community united by mutual respect and understanding. This sense of connection laid the groundwork for the transformative work that would follow. As the retreat progressed, Elias introduced activities designed to deepen these bonds. In one exercise, participants partnered with someone they hadn't worked with before and engaged in a dialogue centered on their values and aspirations. The activity revealed surprising insights, fostering empathy and collaboration. One participant, a tech executive named Marcus, later remarked, "It's incredible how quickly barriers dissolve when we take the time to really see and hear one another." Elias also wove the theme of connection into his own life, reflecting on the relationships that had shaped his journey. He began reaching out to old friends, mentors, and colleagues, expressing gratitude for their support and sharing updates on his progress. These conversations rekindled connections that had faded over time, reminding Elias of the importance of nurturing relationships even amidst life's busyness. One particularly meaningful reconnection was with his childhood friend, Sarah. Though they had grown apart over the years, their shared history created an immediate sense of familiarity and warmth. Over a long lunch, they reminisced about their adventures and challenges, laughing and reflecting on how far they had come. Sarah's encouragement and perspective became a source of inspiration for Elias, reinforcing his belief in the enduring power of connection. Elias's exploration of connection also led him to examine the role of community in his work. He realized that many of his clients and workshop participants were seeking not just individual growth, but a sense of belonging and shared purpose. Inspired by this insight, he began designing programs that emphasized collaboration and collective learning. One such initiative, a mentorship circle for young professionals, became a resounding success, creating a ripple effect of support and empowerment. Through these experiences, Elias discovered that connection was not just about forming relationships, but about fostering an environment where people felt seen, heard, and valued. It was about creating spaces where vulnerability was met with compassion, where differences were celebrated, and where shared goals brought people together. This understanding became a cornerstone of his philosophy, shaping how he approached both his work and personal life. One evening, during a reflective walk through the park, Elias encountered a small group of musicians performing an impromptu concert. The harmony of their instruments, the The way their sounds intertwined and complemented one another struck a chord deep within him. It was a reminder that connection, like music, required both individuality and collaboration, each voice contributing its unique note to create something greater than the sum of its parts. This metaphor inspired Elias to compose a new piece of music, one that celebrated the beauty of connection. The melody was rich and layered, weaving together themes of unity, diversity, and shared purpose. As he played the final notes, he felt a profound sense of gratitude for the people who had enriched his journey and for the opportunities to connect with others in meaningful ways. Elias's commitment to fostering connection also influenced how he navigated challenges. When a close colleague faced a personal crisis, Elias offered his support not through advice or solutions, but simply by being present. This act of listening and empathy strengthened their bond and reminded Elias of the importance of showing up for others in their times of need. It was a testament to the idea that connection was not always about grand gestures, but about the quiet moments of understanding and care. As Elias reflected on his journey, he realized that connection was both a source of strength and a catalyst for growth. It was through his relationships that he found encouragement in difficult times, inspiration in moments of doubt, and joy in life's simple pleasures. Whether through a heartfelt conversation, a shared experience, or a collaborative effort, connection added depth and richness to every aspect of his life. Sitting at his piano one evening, Elias played a melody that felt like an ode to connection. The notes flowed seamlessly, each one building on the last, creating a tapestry of sound that was both intricate and harmonious. As the music filled the room, Elias smiled, knowing that the strength he had found in connection would continue to guide him on his journey. Connection, Elias realized, was not just about reaching out to others, but about allowing others to reach him. It was about embracing the vulnerability and openness that made relationships meaningful. With this understanding, he felt ready to continue his path, confident that the bonds he nurtured would not only sustain him, but also inspire and empower those around him. Chapter 23: The Rhythm of Growth. Growth, Elias came to understand, was not a linear ascent, but a rhythmic ebb and flow, a dance between effort and reflection, challenge and rest. The more he embraced this rhythm, the more he realized that growth was not about reaching a fixed destination, but about the journey itself, the process of becoming, evolving, and discovering new dimensions of himself. This realization began to take shape during a particularly introspective season in Elias's life. After months of intense focus on his professional and personal endeavors, he found himself at a crossroads. The successes he had achieved brought a sense of accomplishment, but they were accompanied by an undercurrent of fatigue and a subtle feeling of disconnection. Elias knew it was time to pause and recalibrate, to step back and listen to the rhythm of his own life. He began by creating space for reflection. Setting aside his usual to-do lists and schedules, Elias dedicated time each day to simply be. Whether through journaling, meditating, or walking in nature, he allowed himself to reconnect with his inner thoughts and emotions. In these quiet moments, he began to recognize patterns in his growth. Times when he had pushed too hard, moments when he had hesitated, and the spaces where he had found balance. One of the insights that emerged was the importance of honoring both effort and rest. Elias realized that growth required periods of intense focus and hard work, but it also demanded moments of recovery and renewal. Just as a muscle needed time to repair after exertion, the mind and spirit needed space to process and integrate the lessons of experience. This rhythm of action and rest became a guiding principle, helping Elias approach his journey with greater sustainability and intention. Elias also began to explore the role of challenges in his growth. Reflecting on his past experiences, he noticed that the moments of greatest transformation often arose from the most difficult circumstances. It was in facing adversity, stepping outside his comfort zone, and embracing the unknown that he had discovered new strengths and capabilities. These challenges, though uncomfortable, had been the catalysts for his evolution. One such challenge arose during a collaborative project with a group of peers. The team had been tasked with developing a comprehensive strategy for a nonprofit organization, a project that required navigating diverse perspectives and navigating complex dynamics. At times, tensions flared as differing opinions clashed and progress stalled. Yet, rather than retreating into frustration or defensiveness, Elias leaned into the discomfort, fostering open dialogue and encouraging the group to find common ground. The process was messy and imperfect, but it ultimately led to a breakthrough that exceeded their initial expectations. This experience reinforced Elias's belief in the power of growth through collaboration. He saw how the rhythm of give and take, listening and contributing, mirrored the broader rhythm of life. It was a reminder that growth was not a solitary endeavor, but a shared journey, one enriched by the perspectives and support of others. As Elias continued to embrace the rhythm of growth, he began experimenting with new approaches to his creative pursuits. At the piano, he allowed himself to play without a predetermined structure, letting the music flow naturally and intuitively. This improvisation became a metaphor for his journey, a reflection of his willingness to explore, adapt, and trust in the process. The melodies he created felt more authentic and alive, resonating deeply with his evolving sense of self. Elias's exploration of growth also led him to reevaluate his goals and aspirations. While he remained committed to his vision and purpose, he recognized the importance of flexibility and adaptability. Life, he realized, was constantly changing, and growth required the ability to adjust course when needed. This mindset allowed him to approach his goals with both determination and openness, balancing ambition with humility. One evening, while reflecting on his journey, Elias wrote a passage in his journal that encapsulated his evolving philosophy. Growth is not about perfection or achievement. It is about presence and progress. It is about honoring the rhythm of life, trusting the process, and embracing the journey with an open heart. These words became a mantra, guiding him through the inevitable ups and downs of his path. Elias's commitment to the rhythm of growth also influenced how he supported others. In his workshops and mentoring sessions, he encouraged participants to view their own growth as a dynamic and nonlinear process. He shared stories of his own challenges and breakthroughs, emphasizing the importance of resilience, reflection, and self-compassion. These conversations often sparked moments of clarity and inspiration, as people recognized the beauty of their own journeys. One particularly memorable interaction occurred during a one-on-one session with a young entrepreneur named Layla. Struggling with self-doubt and the pressure to succeed, Layla felt paralyzed by the fear of failure. Through their conversation, Elias helped her reframe her perspective, encouraging her to view setbacks as opportunities for learning and growth. It's not about avoiding mistakes, he told her. It's about using them to refine your path and deepen your understanding of yourself. As Elias reflected on his journey, he felt a profound sense of gratitude for the rhythm of growth that had guided him. Each step, each challenge, each moment of rest had contributed to his evolution, shaping him into the person he was becoming. The journey was far from over, but Elias felt a renewed sense of trust in the process, confident that he was exactly where he needed to be. Sitting at his piano one evening, Elias composed a piece inspired by the rhythm of growth. The melody was both dynamic and reflective, a balance of tension and resolution, effort and ease. As the music filled the room, he felt a deep connection to the journey that had brought him to this moment and to the endless possibilities that lay ahead. Growth, Elias realized, was not a destination but a way of being. It was about embracing the rhythm of life, finding beauty in both the challenges and the stillness, and moving forward with curiosity and courage. With this understanding, he felt ready to continue his journey, trusting that each step would lead him closer to the person he was meant to become. Chapter 24. The Resonance of Authenticity. Authenticity, Elias realized, was not just about being honest or true to oneself. It was about living in alignment with one's values, desires, and inner truths. It was about shedding the layers of expectation and pretense that often obscured the essence of who we are. As Elias delved deeper into this concept, he discovered that authenticity was both liberating and challenging, requiring vulnerability, courage, and a willingness to face the parts of himself he had long avoided. The journey began when Elias found himself at a crossroads in his career. Though he had achieved significant success, he couldn't shake the feeling that some of his work no longer resonated with his core values. He felt torn between maintaining the status quo and pursuing projects that aligned more closely with his evolving sense of purpose. The decision weighed heavily on him, forcing him to confront questions about identity, integrity, and fulfillment. One evening, during a conversation with his mentor Alan, Elias voiced his concerns. Alan listened thoughtfully before offering a simple, yet profound piece of advice. Authenticity isn't just about knowing who you are. It's about having the courage to live it, even when it's uncomfortable. These words struck a chord with Elias, inspiring him to embark on a journey of self-discovery and realignment. Elias began by reflecting on what authenticity meant to him. Through journaling and meditation, he explored the values and passions that had shaped his journey. He asked himself difficult questions. What brings me joy? What drains my energy? Am I making choices that reflect my true self? Or am I conforming to others' expectations? These reflections revealed both clarity and discomfort, as Elias confronted the compromises he had made and the fears that had held him back. One of the most significant realizations Elias had was the importance of boundaries in living authentically. He recognized that saying yes to everything, out of fear of disappointing others or missing opportunities, had often left him feeling overextended and disconnected. To honor his authenticity, Elias began practicing the art of saying no. Though challenging at first, this practice allowed him to prioritize the projects, relationships, and activities that truly resonated with him. This newfound clarity also influenced how Elias approached his work. He decided to shift his focus toward initiatives that aligned with his values of growth, connection, and creativity. One such project was a storytelling workshop designed to help individuals explore and share their authentic narratives. The workshop quickly became a success, attracting participants from diverse backgrounds who were eager to uncover and embrace their truths. For Elias, facilitating these workshops was both fulfilling and inspiring, a reminder of the transformative power of authenticity. Elias's commitment to authenticity extended to his personal relationships. He began engaging in deeper, more honest conversations with friends and loved ones, sharing his thoughts, feelings, and vulnerabilities more openly. While some of these interactions were met with discomfort or resistance, others deepened his connections and created spaces of mutual understanding and support. One particularly meaningful conversation was with his sister, Mia, who had always admired Elias but felt distant from him. Through their dialogue, they discovered shared fears and aspirations, forging a bond that was stronger and more authentic than ever before. As Elias embraced authenticity, he encountered moments of self-doubt and fear. He worried about how others would perceive him and whether his choices would lead to regret. Yet, each time these doubts arose, he reminded himself of a simple truth. Living authentically was not about perfection or approval. It was about honoring his own journey and trusting that it would lead him where he was meant to go. One of the most profound lessons Elias learned was the importance of self-compassion in the pursuit of authenticity. He realized that being true to himself required not only honesty, but also kindness and patience. There were times when he stumbled, moments when he felt unsure or overwhelmed. Instead of judging himself harshly, Elias chose to view these moments as opportunities for growth and learning. This shift in perspective allowed him to navigate his journey with greater ease and resilience. Elias's exploration of authenticity also inspired him to revisit his creative pursuits. At the piano, he composed pieces that felt deeply personal, each melody a reflection of his thoughts and emotions. These compositions became a form of self-expression, a way to articulate the nuances of his journey in a language beyond words. One evening, as he played a new piece, he felt a profound sense of alignment, as if the music were a mirror of his truest self. The impact of Elias's authenticity extended beyond himself. Friends, colleagues, and workshop participants often remarked on his ability to inspire and empower others to embrace their own truths. Through his openness and vulnerability, Elias created spaces where people felt safe to explore and express their authentic selves. These interactions became a source of joy and fulfillment, reinforcing his belief in the transformative power of authenticity. One particularly memorable moment occurred during a workshop session when a participant named Clara shared her story. Clara, a young artist, spoke about her struggle to balance her creative passions with societal expectations. Through the workshop, she found the courage to pursue her art more fully, embracing the unique perspective she brought to the world. Her story resonated deeply with Elias, a reminder of the ripple effect authenticity could have on others. As Elias reflected on his journey, he felt a deep sense of gratitude for the lessons authenticity had taught him. It had shown him the importance of alignment, the courage to make difficult choices, and the strength to embrace vulnerability. It had reminded him that living authentically was not a destination, but an ongoing process, one that required continual reflection, courage, and compassion. Sitting at his piano one evening, Elias played a melody that felt like an ode to authenticity. The notes were raw and unpolished, yet deeply resonant, a reflection of the beauty that emerged when he allowed himself to be fully seen. As the final chord faded into the silence, Elias smiled, knowing that the journey of authenticity was far from over. With each step, he was becoming more aligned with his true self, more connected to his purpose, and more open to the infinite possibilities that lay ahead. Chapter 25. The Power of Clarity. Clarity, Elias realized, was not a sudden burst of insight or an instantaneous solution to life's challenges. Instead, it was a process of uncovering, refining, and aligning, a gradual illumination that brought focus and direction to even the most complex of journeys. As his life evolved, Elias came to understand that clarity was both a destination and a practice, one that required patience, curiosity, and an unwavering commitment to self-awareness. The need for clarity became evident during a period of intense decision-making. With multiple opportunities presenting themselves, each promising growth, success, and fulfillment in different ways, Elias found himself overwhelmed. His thoughts felt scattered, his energy fragmented, and his sense of purpose clouded. For someone who had spent so much time cultivating intentionality, this state of uncertainty felt unfamiliar and unsettling. Elias's first step toward clarity was to pause and create space for reflection. He set aside a weekend to disconnect from his usual routines, retreating to a quiet cabin surrounded by nature. Armed with his journal, a stack of blank note cards, and a willingness to explore, he began the process of untangling his thoughts. The serene environment provided the perfect backdrop for introspection, allowing him to focus without distraction. He started by listing his current commitments, aspirations, and concerns on individual note cards. As he laid them out on the table, patterns and connections began to emerge. He noticed which projects and goals excited him, which drained him, and which felt misaligned with his values. This exercise helped him identify the sources of his overwhelm and clarified where his energy was most effectively spent. One of the most valuable insights Elias gained during this process was the distinction between external expectations and internal desires. He realized that many of the opportunities he was considering were appealing because they aligned with societal definitions of success, rather than his own vision for his life. By stripping away these external pressures, Elias began to reconnect with what truly mattered to him: growth, creativity, and meaningful connection. With this newfound clarity, Elias crafted a set of guiding principles to anchor his decisions. These principles, which he called his compass values, included authenticity, impact, joy, and balance. Whenever faced with a choice, Elias asked himself whether it aligned with these values. This simple yet powerful practice brought a sense of direction and confidence to his decision-making, allowing him to move forward with greater ease and purpose. One of the first decisions Elias applied this framework to was a professional opportunity that had seemed irresistible at first glance. The position offered prestige, financial rewards, and the chance to work with a renowned team. Yet, as Elias evaluated it through the lens of his compass values, he realized it lacked the sense of creativity and personal connection that fueled his passion. Declining the offer was not easy, but it was a decision rooted in clarity and alignment, and it paved the way for more fulfilling opportunities to emerge. Elias's commitment to clarity also influenced his relationships. He began approaching conversations with a greater sense of intentionality, seeking to understand not just the words, but the emotions and motivations behind them. This shift deepened his connections, fostering trust and empathy. In one particularly meaningful exchange, Elias reconnected with an old friend, Sarah, who had recently undergone a major life transition. Through their conversation, both found clarity in their respective journeys, inspiring one another to continue seeking alignment and growth. As clarity became a guiding force in his life, Elias also noticed its impact on his creative pursuits. At the piano, he experimented with melodies that felt deliberate and purposeful, each note a reflection of his evolving perspective. In his writing, he explored themes of alignment, intention, and transformation, sharing stories that resonated deeply with his audience. These acts of creation became a source of joy and fulfillment, reminding Elias of the beauty that emerged when clarity and expression converged. One of the most profound moments of clarity came during a workshop Elias was leading on personal development. As participants shared their experiences and reflections, Elias noticed a common thread. Many were grappling with a sense of directionlessness, unsure of how to prioritize their goals and values. Drawing from his own journey, Elias introduced an exercise called the Clarity Map, guiding participants through a series of questions designed to uncover their core desires and intentions. The exercise sparked a wave of insights, empowering participants to take actionable steps toward their aspirations. Elias's exploration of clarity also extended to his relationship with himself. Through journaling and mindfulness practices, he cultivated a deeper awareness of his thoughts, emotions, and patterns. He learned to recognize when his mind was clouded by fear or doubt, and to gently redirect his focus toward what truly mattered. This practice not only enhanced his decision-making, but also brought a sense of inner peace and resilience. One evening, as Elias reflected on his journey, he wrote a passage in his journal that encapsulated his evolving understanding of clarity. Clarity is not a fixed state, but a dynamic process. It is the act of continually aligning with one's values, shedding what no longer serves, and trusting in the path that unfolds. It is both the compass and the journey, guiding us toward our truest selves. These words became a mantra, reminding Elias to embrace the ongoing nature of his pursuit. Sitting at his piano, Elias composed a piece inspired by the theme of clarity. The melody was clean and intentional, each note resonating with a sense of purpose and direction. As the music filled the room, Elias felt a profound connection to his journey, a reminder of the strength and beauty that emerged from living in alignment. Clarity, Elias realized, was not about having all the answers, but about asking the right questions. It was about trusting the process, embracing uncertainty, and remaining open to discovery. With this understanding, he felt ready to continue his journey, confident that each step would bring him closer to the life he envisioned.